What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch in the Rube, presented by our friends at Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. And also our Friday show brought to you by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask and Company Kitchen and Bar. That's just north of Frandor on the Lansing-East Lansing border. Terrific menu, unbelievable place to watch a game, relax, whatever it might be. Jason, how you doing, brother?
I'm not talking about Michigan.
What's up, buddy? How you been?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah.
I'm unshowered, by the way, so don't come near me. I stink. We lost our water yesterday because we had to shut it off. At 8:30 yesterday morning, I went to the refrigerator and grabbed some ice cubes, shut the refrigerator door, and then all of a sudden I heard a crack and then water gushing behind the refrigerator. So I absolutely panicked. And I knew I had to get to some sort of water shut-off somewhere. I just didn't know where it was. So I ran and got towels, a big pile of them, and I just threw the towels. By the way, the water is just running. And, oh, by the way, we had just gotten our floor done. That was pretty expensive. And it's water everywhere. And T is in Virginia for work. So I call her, and I'm like, oh, baby, oh, my God, the water's going everywhere. She's like, shut off, underneath the house. And I'm like, oh, shit, but I'm claustrophobic. But I'm like, fuck, I mean, we can't lose the floor. Run outside, kick that thing open. I dive underneath the house with the water shut off. And then I have to walk back into all the water. Thankfully, it dried out and everything. But, dude, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I'm not good under pressure, Graham. I mean, I kind of knew that, but I was like, dude, what if something goes down? I was like panicky Pete, and like the cameras caught me running outside. You hear me go, oh, my God, there's water everywhere. So anyway, it's been a trying day and a half, and we're waiting for a plumber to come out and turn our water on. So sorry if I'm ripe.
Well, how long do you have to be unwashed?
Well, I mean, we're at the point where we're going to have to go to like a friend's and shower here if we can't get someone there today, because I can't go 2 days without a shower. It's gross.
No, I would.
Anyway, it's a story worth telling maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, story worth telling. A little Midtown Brewing Company, little action there. I'm glad there's a window between us. I will say that I'm pleased for. For our live listeners, I'm trying to tweet the show out right now. I don't know if our internet's slow or whatever. I can't get the Spreaker thing to come up to tweet it out. So hopefully you're able to listen. I apologize for that. So there's a lot going on we need to get into. I think we've got a fun show today. Some great Groovy Donut Twitter questions. We're going to have Harry on from Xavier Booker because something happened on Twitter last night with a question by Fred Heumann that I think is important. But let's start with Aidan Chiles because I do think that is a more pressing situation, a more important situation for MSU football and for MSU athletics and all, because you cannot, to me, Michigan State football could not really move forward until they had their quarterback. And they do now. And I think there's still a lot they've got to build, but if you got nobody in the quarterback room, if you don't get Aidan Chiles, where do you go? What do you have next year? What does next year look like? It's not that you wouldn't get a quarterback. There are like 90 of them in the transfer portal. But without Aidan Chiles, the idea that you've got something you can be excited about would be difficult to find. I don't know. What was your reaction?
A running quarterback. That's
Yes.
what my fucking first thing was. Like, thank God we can finally get a running quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like Smith wants his own guy. He had Chiles at Oregon State for a little bit there. Of course he wants to bring his guy. And that's the whole thing with the guys that left, like Levitt and all that. I mean, it's not really that big of a deal. You want to, if you're going to come into this job at Michigan State, if you're Smith, you want your guy. And especially if he's, Chiles, I'm okay with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, you want a guy. Look, he looks like a playmaker, and we've been saying for a long time, Michigan State needs a playmaker at the position,
and to get it out of the way, get your quarterback.
Yeah,
and then you can surround yourself, and then you're good.
Yeah.
So
No, so that was a monumental moment. It said a couple things. One, it said MSU at least has the NIL in place to land a quarterback because they don't come free these days. And I think, when you look at who he is, it's going to take some time. It takes all quarterbacks time. But I also think you'll see some of the exciting things he can do right away. And that's not insignificant. I mean, that to me is like one of the problems with Caton Hauser, I think, for people early on is they were excited about him, but then when they saw him play and there wasn't a lot of juice to the arm and things like that, it was like, oh, wait a second. What within his game is there to be excited about other than he could develop into becoming a really solid quarterback and things? But I think you'll see the difference. You'll see the possibilities, at least early on. Now, they've got to build a line around Chiles. They've got to get him playmakers. They've got to do enough to allow him to grow with confidence. There's a lot of stuff there. But ideally, you've got your quarterback for the next 3 years. And they've also got to get some backups around him because I
saw that in your 3 quick takes. It's a good point, though. It's like you get a guy like that, but, with injuries do happen. So who are you going to have on your depth chart, though? Is it going to be tougher to get guys to come in? Because they know Chiles is going to be Smith's guy until – I mean, obviously, we don't want something bad to happen to Chiles, that way. But you know what I'm saying? Like, they're expecting him to be the quarterback for the next 2 to 3 years.
Correct. And, I mean, that is going to be a challenge. You have to go get a transfer, I think. Somebody who says, I'm willing to compete here. I want to play at this level. For whatever reason, I want to be there. And I don't think that's a given, I don't think that's always easy. Because you can get Anthony Russo, but we all saw that Anthony Russo wasn't really capable of leading MSU's football team a couple years ago. You've got to find a guy who's at a level that can get you through games, or if Chiles gets hurt. I do think there are mid-major guys out there that would like the opportunity to play up, that have played a lot already, but it's going to have to be the right guy in the right situation, and all that. So yeah, that itself was interesting. The other story I want to get into unfolded yesterday at Michigan State basketball practice when Xavier Booker was asked for and available to the media. And by the way, Michigan State basketball does this really well. If you ask for Xavier Booker, likely he's going to be available. If you ask for a player, likely you're going to be able to talk to them. Tom Izzo, in his press comments earlier in the day, had said that he wanted or that he had started talking about Booker, and he made a comment, look, ask Booker. I'm not going to keep him from you. And so when he said that, it opened the door that we were all going to ask for Booker that day later on, and we did. And in that conversation, Fred Heumann asked this.
Xavier, so the elephant in the room, and the rumor around campus is, well, he's a 5-star player, he's not playing, he's probably going to transfer. You're not even debating that?
No, not at all. I mean, I'm still here. Obviously, we're still in the season, so I can't really do that. And two, I don't think I want to go down that route either. That's kind of running away from the grind. I don't want to do that. So just gotta accept it. I mean, it's gonna be hard regardless. So just gotta keep pushing through, keep taking it day by day. So. Yeah.
What's the problem?
There is no problem, except you get some MSU folks on Twitter and a couple fan accounts that are protective of people, and I get that don't think it's an appropriate question. That thought, and there were some people who were like, we got to get rid of the media, we got to get rid of this asshole, basically, get rid of his credential, all that stuff. That's Fred freaking Heumann, been around forever. There are a few things to get into here. One, it's entirely fair, okay? I would ask you this, forgetting who it is, forgetting that it's Xavier Booker. Jason, do you think it's fair to ask an athlete who's making 6 figures and is a free agent at the end of the year and hasn't played as much as they've wanted to or expected to, if they would consider leaving? Do you think it's fair to ask an athlete that?
Mr. Elephant in the room, Fred Heumann. Yeah, I don't see a big deal. And I think it does have something to do with these guys are making a decent amount of money now in NIL and all that other stuff. But, I mean, it also answers the question, and people want to know the question. So why would you get mad at Fred for asking a question like that? Spartan Johnny replied with, I feel like most of my fellow alums are more scared about the answer than offended by the question.
Yes.
And I think that's true.
I agree.
And it's okay that way. That's okay as well.
It was not the most artful question Fred has ever asked. I mean, he said...
But he got to the point. How were you supposed to ask that?
And if there are things to be mad at Fred about, it's the fact that he will take a phone call in the middle of a press conference and just start talking. Like, there are lots of things I give shit to Fred for. In a Tom Izzo press conference, like 4 weeks ago, Izzo was literally answering my question, which he then got derailed from because it doesn't take much to derail Izzo. And Fred's phone rings, so he takes the call. He takes the fucking call. Like Fred. And I that was the first time I got pissed at him. I was like, you can not take the call. You can text them.
It doesn't text, I don't think.
Barely, yeah. It's like, Fred, man, like, I don't know. That was one time, I usually find Fred funny. That was not a day I found Fred's antics entertaining. However, in this case, look, I thought Xavier Booker handled it well, too.
Yeah.
I think there are tremendous advantages to these guys being asked uncomfortable questions at times and being made available. And I think schools that hide their athletes are going against the mission of their school. They're not doing them any favors because this is real life. And this is especially real life now. In the transfer portal world, a world that these guys have started to create the epidemic of transfers, these are going to be asked all the time. You're going to ask about free throws, about cutting out, about three-pointers, and about are you transferring? And it's fair. It comes with the territory. If this many kids are going to get in the portal, if it's going to be just as a part of the culture of anything else, it is 100% fair. And there is a difference between an 18-year-old college kid and a 26-year-old pro. But there is no longer as big a difference between an 18-year-old college kid and an 18-year-old pro because these kids are pros. And that does change small dynamics. It should not change how you address them. You should still speak to them as a human. I think that's in any situation. I did find it ironic that, MSU fans on Twitter are as crude and inhumane as you can find sometimes about things, about kids, and this kid sucks, this kid's this. And then somebody asks a slightly uncomfortable question, and it's like, back off. Back off. That's my guy. Like, if that was Madi Sissoko, people have been like, yes, here are the pitchforks. Keep asking. Screw you. Like, that's shit. Look, these are fair questions, and how you ask them does matter. It was a part of a longer conversation, and I thought Xavier handled the entire interview really well. It was a tough spot to be in because we haven't talked to him a whole lot, and we haven't asked for him a whole lot because he hasn't been playing. Everybody was around him, so it was kind of one of those big scrum deals where you don't get this sort of one-on-one, one-on-two, and I think it would be better for us to talk to him more often so there's less of that. But he's always handled it well. He handles it calmly, and
but do you think if it were like the old transfer rules where you have to sit out a season, I could understand not having to ask that question. No NIL money, right? But now that we have the NIL, like, you have to kind of be transparent as a player to let us know what you're kind of thinking, because when we have to speculate on our own, that's when the trouble starts.
Well, and this is
so when I hear Xavier Booker say that, I'm off. I mean, that's fine. I'm off as Xavier Booker. We have an answer from the guy.
This is where the lack of transparency with NIL comes to help and hurt. People don't have an idea what these guys are making. I feel a little uncomfortable. I know what Xavier Booker is making. I feel pretty comfortable in the number. I don't feel great sharing it for whatever reason. And maybe I should, but because it's not a public number.
Well, you kind of did. I mean, we know the figures.
You don't know
the number,
you don't
digits.
You don't know the exact figure, I don't think.
No, but you said six figures.
Right. I mean,
so it's around between 900,000 and 100,000, I guess. It's good money either way.
It's good money.
Yeah.
And I we'll get into it a little bit because somebody asked later about the total salary pool for MSU basketball players, and I'm more comfortable with what I know there because that blankets it over everybody. It doesn't put on anybody the simple expectations. But Xavier Booker could answer the question about transferring by how much he is making in NIL money, which is probably more than he'd get most other places. He's doing fine. Like, there's a lot of reasons for Xavier Booker to stick around. And but the other component of that is I think he handled it well. He answered a couple interesting questions. One, I think he gets that he's not 100% ready. He sees what's in front of him. He takes part in practice. I also thought it was interesting he talked about practicing more at the center position. And that is something he was not doing early in the year as much. Like before the season when I talked to him, they were preparing him to be a power forward. Now, some of that may be need at center, although they're getting Jackson Kohler back. But I think some of it is they're realizing the fit of what he might be at MSU is probably more center based on how things have gone for him at power forward, the way they see this lineup with Cohen Carr playing a lot at the 4 and Malik Hall. There's not a lot of room at the 4 because you're going to want to play your backcourt guys more. And if you're moving Carr down to the 3, that's less time for some other key guys. So, but I thought that was interesting too that he said he was playing the 5. But there was nothing wrong with how he handled it. And I think I think one of the best things they do at MSU basketball is that Izzo puts his players in these situations, so they have to learn accountability. They have to learn how to deal with uncomfortable questions. They have to answer to things after they fail. And in doing that, it helps them grow and develop. And I tell you what, if they do get to the NBA, when they do get to an area that has previously been deemed professional, they're much more ready for it. They're much more ready for difficult stuff later in their careers. Like Xavier Booker, 2 years from now, if he's playing in big games in a leading role at Michigan State, say he's still at MSU and all that stuff, and he is going to be better able to handle uncomfortable situations because he is going to have gone through it. And he's not going to dread them. He's just going to know it's part of the drill. And he handled it really well yesterday, and that it should always be part of the drill. Look, I think MSU football does a decent job of making people available, and that's really on the coach. They do better than a lot of places, but they could do more. I think a lot of football programs that hide their guys, screw that. They're human beings, and they're not helped when they're kept away like that. Some adversary that oh my God, you had a conversation with a college athlete. You didn't go through us. What? Like that does not help them grow up. That does not help them, and it's against the mission of the school. Frankly, it shouldn't be allowed. The NCAA should have what the NBA does. You don't have to have open locker rooms, but you should have some mandated press availability so these guys learn how to deal with uncomfortable situations. And Xavier Booker handled it well. And Fred's question, what have I asked it right there? I wasn't planning to ask it. What have I asked it differently? Yeah, the rumor around here or whatever he said. I don't know what Fred said, but it's Fred. But it wasn't unfair, to say the least. So that I just wanted to get into that a little bit. We'll get more into it during your Groovy Donut Twitter questions in a few minutes. And if you are looking for a place to watch, like Saturday, great day with Michigan State basketball at 2, Lions at 8, NFL going on all the time, good soccer going on late morning. Front 43 and Cask & Company will take care of you. It's just off East Saginaw near the East Lansing border. 2 amazing places, 1 outstanding menu. They're adjoined, so to speak. 2 different vibes, both with great TV setups. I was just there yesterday, had the Big Island Sushi Bowl. It is incredible. Would highly recommend it. Even ate it with chopsticks because I forgot to ask for a fork. And I, while typing, only spilled about 30 pieces of rice and on my keyboard. But you've seen my keyboard, Jason.
I have.
It's disgusting. It can take it. It's disgusting. So anyway, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, Harry Gagnon will pick some games. Then we'll get into your Groovy Donut Twitter questions. Couch in the Roo, presented by Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app and Front 43 in Cask & Company.
Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play from your phone, tablet, or laptop. Get in on all the football action with pre- and in-game wagering. There's showdowns every week in football that you can't miss. Plus, the college and pro hoops are red hot, and the pucks are cool. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500 each. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Where else can you cheer on your team, enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi, sip on handcrafted cocktails, or one of 46 beers on tap? Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. 2 amazing places with 1 awesome blended modern American Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wonder how comfortable you can be and how good you can look? Put on a Muskox flannel and find out. Muskox has new arrivals for this fall, including the Caper Green Grand Flannel, which even makes couch look good. Muskox is a Detroit-based flannel company that creates soft and durable flannels made to last a lifetime. They become a great partner with Couch in the Rube, not just because they make us look good and feel good, but because they're good people too, and a socially conscious company. For every $100 purchase, $10 is donated to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation. Muskox flannels are designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. Feel the quality and comfort of a Muskox flannel by ordering at gomuskox.com, where Couch in the Rube listeners can enjoy $15 off their flannel purchase with the promo code HOFF.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch in the Rube, presented by Firekeeper's iCasino and Sportsbook app. It is time now to bring in our great friend Harry Gagnon from The Ringer and Against All Odds with Cousin Sal and pick some games. How you doing, Harry?
Hey, guys. What's happening? How's everything?
It is good to hear your voice again, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Doing a week without you is, I don't know. It's
Now,
I just hope neither of you two had the Chargers last night. That's all.
I'm just embarrassed that I had anything to do with that game last night as far as gambling.
Oh.
I had a single game parlay and an anytime touchdown, but that was all I could do.
I did have the under. I did have the under.
I did. You know what? I did too. On a teaser.
Okay.
On a teaser.
Yep.
But
Made it
still,
worse.
Didn't matter.
Yep. Made it worse.
Didn't matter.
And then I chased the under, and that made it even worse.
Yeah.
And then, but then I jumped on the over. I was like, this isn't going to stop. And then I realized it. At some point, I jumped on the live line for the Raiders, like minus 28 and minus 34. I was like, all right, we're good. Let's get a couple things in here. And
how many barrels did you fire last night, man?
I panicked because I had this teaser that I was pissed off about in the under, and I was not happy. I wanted Brandon Staley fired. I was not.
Well, he's fired.
Yeah. Well,
breaking news.
Yeah. So that was one of those truly embarrassing games. Some good games this weekend. And I love the Saturday Sunday spread. I love having it on Saturday. No offense to the Army Navy game, but last Saturday is not a great Saturday of football. So let's start where everybody's heads are here. Broncos plus 4.5 at the Lions. A Lions team you can't trust. A quarterback you can't trust with the Lions. A team that is defensively become a bit of a sieve. But a lot of that has happened against guys like Fields who can move around and cause you problems. A lot of it's happened, not all of it, but a lot of it's happened outdoors where the conditions aren't great. And 4.5 is a big number here, but I do feel like somehow gut says this is a get-right game for the Lions. Not that it'll stay right, but this is one of those games that feels good. They're going to win by a score, 7 points, something like that. I don't hate the 4.5 here. This line a few weeks ago would have been much bigger. Jason, where are you?
Go Lions, restore the rule.
This number when it was 4.5 to 4, it just seems weird, which means I think that the Lions are going to cover this spread somehow. I've been wrong on the Lions, so listen to Harry, listen to Graham, don't listen to me, because I always go with the home team. But I just, it makes you want to grab that 4.5, but I think the Lions, they're trying to trick you into it. So give me the -4. What do you got, Harry?
I think you're right, Jay. I think you guys are both right. Well, guys, by the way, I'm later on today heading to Vegas, so I'm going to be I'll be in Vegas. I'll probably be at the Wynn. Anybody being out in Vegas, come see me. I'm probably going to watch games all day long at the Wynn on Saturday, so it should be a lot of fun. But guys, you're right. Like I just think this number is a little high, but I think they're doing that on purpose. I mean, come on, Goff, snap out of it. I know Denver's defense is tough, and the Lions' defense has a lot of things that they have to fix there. But I think Montgomery Gibbs pound the ball here, and I know Broncos one game back in the AFC West, which is crazy, but I think this is a little high on purpose. I agree with you guys. It makes you want to take the Broncos, but I'm going to go the other way. I'm on the Lions with you guys.
You're a beautiful man, Harry. I feel much better about that. Bears +3 at Browns, and this is I really like the Bears here. I like the way they're playing. Obviously, I just watched them destroy the Lions. But I think they're playing all right. I think Fields is playing quite a bit better. There's still things he doesn't do great. I still think they've got to get rid of him at the end of the season because it doesn't make any sense to keep him, given that you've got a chance to restart your clock on a quarterback. It's a great QB draft. You're going to have the number 1 pick because you have the Panthers. Like, you can't keep Fields. But Fields is going to be a starter somewhere next year because of the way he's playing. The Browns are beat up. Bears are playing well. Defensively, they've been much better since they got Montez Sweat. I am on the Bears here, and I'll probably sprinkle on the money line as well. Jason, where are you?
Yeah, this is either Bears +3 or a fade. I just can't trust Joe Flacco, even if it's at home, to cover the 3 there. So give me the Bears +3. What do you got, Harry?
Guys, I think this is the fishy line of the week. We're talking an 8-5 team, and Flacco looked good last week against a 5-8 Bears team that is playing good, but still, usually, the dog pound, Cleveland at home, you always get the 3 points as the home team, and the game is just sitting there at 3, which still I think this game should have been 4.5. And it makes sense to take Chicago here, but I'm still going to stay with Cleveland. I'm going to stay with Cleveland. Amari Cooper's finally healthy. I think Flacco finds him. He's a big integral part in this game. And I am going to take the Browns, even though I think this line is very fishy and it's pointing toward Chicago. I'm going to take Cleveland.
Hey, well, I feel really good about that game, and now I feel less good. So thank you, Harry.
Somebody trust Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, I got a interesting that you're. I'm just saying, interesting theory for you, Graham, on Fields. I think the Bears. He's 24. I think the Bears should keep him. He's got over 2,000 yards in his career rushing. He's got a +10 touchdown to pick ratio in his career. I don't think if you go out and get Caleb Williams first, I don't think he's a guarantee for anything. I think you keep Fields. My personal opinion is you keep Fields. You go and get Harrison from Ohio State, so you get the Ohio State connection, and you get an offensive lineman, and I think that's what the Bears should do. That's my opinion.
You're a year away from having to pay him $40 million a year. In that case, and then you can't build a team anymore. You got to get rid of your offensive line and rid of Harrison, the next Harrison, and all that stuff. So that's my only thing. Like, if I were quarterbacks and in the next CBA, I would want a deal where you could get some Shohei Ohtani deferred compensation so you could keep being a starter. Because if they could not pay, I think the contract is what makes it a really tough situation. Because restarting the clock is everything. Like, how do you not?
You're right.
They
did trade up. They did trade up with the Giants in the draft to make sure they got their guy, who was Fields at the time. And it hasn't worked out great, but also you guys know better than anybody. Like, they haven't had any help off in the offensive line for him. They really haven't had any receivers. If you go out and get Harrison, you get a lineman, so you got to pay him in a year. I understand that, but you're gonna have to pay a quarterback at some point. And I just don't think there's a particular guy out there that's just going to start fresh with the Bears, and then you got to go through the cycle again of 2-3 years of being crap. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. You got to decide where your roster is. You have to decide with Fields, is he better than because what you can do if you're the Bears, if you're the team that passed on Patrick Mahomes, you can't be the team that passes on another generational quarterback and makes that mistake. And I think that's the hard thing.
Tough thing. It is tough.
Speaking of generational quarterbacks, Texans, Titans. Actually, not somewhat serious. 2 rookies playing well right now. C.J. Stroud, obviously going to be the Rookie of the Year. Really happy that I'm sitting on that ticket. The Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. $25 to pay about $300. The Texans aren't the team they were. Titans, man. Titans at home. I know that I don't want to read too much into the Dolphins game, but I would stay the hell away from this. The Texans with the receiver injury and give me the Titans here for our purposes. Jason, where are you?
I just like the Titans. I've won some money on them. Vrabel likes to dumb it down, just pound and ground and pound you. Trust Will Levis a little bit more. I kind of like this a lot. If I could get it at 2.5, Harry, I'd love it even more. But give me the Titans given the 3 points. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm on the Titans too. Look, Houston's banged up. They gave up 30 second-half points to the Jets. Vrabel and Levis are rolling here. I think they keep rolling. I'm going to stick with it. And I'm with you on the Titans.
All right, Jets plus 8.5 at the Dolphins. Jets playing a little bit better. Dolphins last week, you see the difference when Tyreek Hill is out. Like, they're a very, very average team. They made a case for MVP for him. It's a little scary for them, like how much they have wrapped up in one dude. In other words, the second they clinch anything with the playoffs, which is going to be hard in the AFC, you bubble wrap Hill. You do not let that guy do anything until the playoffs.
Well, just tell him not to run off the field when he gets injured.
Just stay on the field anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, he ran off the field. I was like, isn't Tyreek Hill okay? He ran off the field.
It's like Terrell Davis in the Super Bowl with a migraine. Just at least be a decoy. This is a big number here, but I think the Jets, they've given up on their year, even though they got a good team. They're going to Miami. I think the young Jets team in Miami, in South Beach, plays a Dolphins team that needs to get things back. Give me the Dolphins. Jason, where are you?
Dolphins giving the points, huh? Yeah, I just don't trust either team, so it's going to be a fade for me. But for this, give me the points. I'm sick of giving up big numbers with the Dolphins, and it's hit or miss with the Dolphins. So give me the Jets with the points, but it's a fade. But what do you got here?
Yeah, I really do like the Dolphins on a teaser or on a money line parlay, but I am going to still lay the 8.5 here. It is a pretty big number, but they have been, aside from blowing that 2-touchdown lead with 3 minutes ago, they have been really good at home, won by double digits in every other home game except for one. Miami beat the Jets on Black Friday by 21. The Jets, like I said, got their win versus a banged up Texans squad last week. I think it's a bounce-back win for Miami after blowing that game against Tennessee. Tua shows up. Big game from Mostert, too. It's got 18 total touchdowns this year. And besides last week's game where the Jets, like I said, scored 30 second-half points, their 7 previous games before that, they had scored less than 20 points. Dolphins, minus 8.5. I'll take it.
All right, 49ers, minus 12.5 at the Cardinals. This was 13.5 at one point. This is one of those games that if the 49ers would actually lose this game, I would have to sell my mother's house because every little parlay I have anywhere else is tied with the 49ers money line. I don't see them losing this game. The Cardinals are not a good team, obviously. The 49ers, I know it's in Arizona. 12.5 is a big number. I would probably be more inclined to, I don't know. I use it in a lot of teasers, get it under 7. But for our purposes, I'll take the 49ers. They've been covering this sort of stuff. Jason, where are you?
Yeah, again, with the big numbers, boys, but I got to take the Cards at home. Your Arizona Cardinals, Harry, getting the 12. Not super excited about it, but give me all those points, and I'll pray. What do you got?
You can have all those points. I'm going to take San Francisco. McCaffrey, Debo, Purdy, just too strong, too much offense for the Cards. I'm taking the Niners.
That's fair.
All right, last game, Cowboys plus 2.5 at Buffalo. Kind of the game of the week. Buffalo, if they win, is in a real good spot with the playoffs. If they do, they're still got a chance. But this would be a big win in Buffalo. Cowboys look great right now. They're a different team on the road. I think Cowboys are a better football team. It's at Buffalo, though. I just don't. Give me the Cowboys with the points. This is going to be a great game. I'm just going to enjoy watching it. Probably won't bet it. Jason, where are you?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of rain during this game, right? So I just think that the Cowboys can run the ball better. Give me those two. I'm not excited about it, but give me the Cowboys plus the points. What do you got here?
You know what? Give me the Bills. Give me the Bills here. Maybe a letdown situation for Dallas. Game more important for the Bills overall. 3 of the Cowboys' last 5 road games. I know they've been unbelievable, a complete juggernaut at home with the points being scored. But in their last 3 of the last 5 road games, they have scored 20 points or less. And one of the 2 games they did score more than 20 was against Carolina. Josh Allen, 35 total touchdowns, fresh off that win in Arrowhead. The Bills scored 66 points combined in their 2 previous games before that one. Bills need this more. I'm going to take the Bills over Dallas.
All right, so Harry's on the Bills. It's going to be a fun game. I love when we get good primetime games like that. Okay, the other thing, Harry, you mentioned you like Saturday. If you're looking for an alternative viewing experience while you're at the Front 43 in Cask and Company, the Cure Bowl, App State minus 6.5 against Miami, Ohio. Here's why I'm with you. I got some spite against Miami, Ohio for beating Toledo, which screwed me in some teasers in the MAC championship game, and against Miami, Ohio. When we referenced 2009 Graham dropping like a lot of money on heavy favorites, Miami, Ohio is the team that beat Northern Illinois, and I actually think it was like 2010 or 11 in the MAC championship that hurt me significantly, and to this day hurts me, and I still hate Miami, Ohio football because of it. So I'm with you on App State, Harry, but explain why you love this pick.
Yeah, look, there's plenty of a ton, not great games this weekend for bowl season starting on Saturday, but there's a lot of them. So you maybe pick and choose and find a couple that you like, but also something, a little bit of advice. I mean, we've been accustomed to years past, guys that are maybe going to be first rounders or second rounders not playing in that particular bowl game that may not really benefit them, but also now you got to be wary of the transfer portal with players already switching teams or declaring that they've been already switched and went to a different team. So you got to make sure you're aware of what's going on. I have this in mind, this Cure Bowl, because App State is 8-5. Miami of Ohio is 11-2. But App State is -6.5, and I'm taking the Mountaineers here because the Red Hawks are going to be on their quarterback, number 3. Number 4, the starter, Brett Gabbert, had a leg injury, ended the season in October. Their backup, Avion Smith, like I mentioned, just entered the transfer portal, so they're going to be on 2 quarterbacks, number 3 and 4, playing that they have hardly played anything all season. Meanwhile, the quarterback for the Mountaineers, Joey Aguilar, passed for a school record 3,600 yards for Appalachian State this year, and he had 33 touchdowns. Only Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix had more passing touchdowns this year with 40 in Division One. And also, by the way, App State lost in double overtime to North Carolina this year and won at James Madison, ruining their shot at an undefeated season. App State -6. I love it over the Red Hawks.
That's beautiful.
Say what you want about this show, but where else are you going to get a breakdown of the Cure Bowl like that? It's unbelievable.
With the credibility, with the credibility of Harry,
the credibility, the passion of Harry behind it too.
Nowhere else.
I want to bet it now.
So when it's 24-6 at halftime, Miami of Ohio, I expected some ribbing text from you, Jay.
100%.
Yeah.
I don't text during games anymore. I can't do it.
Right. Sorry, I had to call you out on that one.
It's totally fine.
I had to.
I earned it.
Is there anything else, Jason, that you love this weekend?
Obviously, I'm going to bet on the Lions-Denver game tomorrow night, boys. I'm going to it, so I can't go to an event and not gamble on it. So definitely that. And I don't know. There's not many of the games that we just talked about in the NFL that really jumped out at me, but I'm sure I'll throw a parlay together for Sunday.
I am Premier League is obviously is happening, and if you're listening live, you have time to get on this. I like Nottingham Forest at home Friday afternoon against Tottenham. I like them at +1. I like them a little bit on the draw, no bet. You can do the money line, whatever. I just think Tottenham's vulnerable, and if they're Nottingham Forest has been struggling, but at home they're often a different team. I like Newcastle Saturday morning. Only -121 against a red-hot Fulham team that is I mean, their results are not indicative of who Fulham is. They're scoring way over their expected goals, and everything's going in right now. That's not who Fulham is. Newcastle getting some guys back healthy at home, -121 on the money line. That's an insanely good line. Like that an awful lot. I do like a favorites parlay where you throw in, Man City at home on the money line, Chelsea against Sheffield United on the money line, and maybe even Bournemouth against Luton Town on the money line, and have some fun there. So I'll probably do that as well. But that's where I'm at on the Premier League picks.
Like I said, guys, I'm going to be in Vegas. Rip those. I'm going to do the whole thing. Rip that through one more time, Graham. All those picks.
Okay.
What are those? Okay, those again.
Yeah.
Write them all down.
So you can text them to him.
Yeah. No.
I'm going to make. I'm going to make us a parlay or something. I'm going to make us a parlay. I'm going to include the two of you guys. We're going to make a parlay on tomorrow with all these soccer teams. All right. So we got Man City. You said Bournemouth. Who else?
So Bournemouth, Man City are two, and then Chelsea against Sheffield United. Those three favorites.
Chelsea. And you said Newcastle.
Yeah. Well, then Newcastle. Yeah, Newcastle. I'm just taking straight up. I'll probably throw them in some parlays, but they're -121. That's a great price on Newcastle as well. I wouldn't hate throwing Newcastle in a draw no bet sort of scenario in a larger parlay situation as well. But those are the ones that I'm really on this.
If I don't get too messed up tonight, I got to remember to make this parlay in the morning. I don't know. By the way, guys, also on Saturday, how about this for a player prop real quick? Player prop in the Cincinnati-Minnesota game. How about the Bengals' Joe Mixon, anytime touchdown at +120? He scored a TD in 5 of the last 7 games. In his last 3 out of 4 games, he's had at least 21 touches. Browning's been real good for Cincinnati with Burrow being out, but I think the Bengals rely on Mixon a lot here, even more now, to get it done. He does have 3 touchdowns in his last 2 games. I like Mixon at plus 120 anytime touchdown.
That's
How is it plus money if he has 3 touchdowns in the past 2 games and he's plus money on anytime touchdown?
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty good.
All right.
Pretty good.
It's a good deal. Harry, you're
Love it.
beautiful, man. Enjoy Vegas, and we will talk to you next week.
Fantastic, guys. Take care.
Thank you, man.
Good
That's
luck.
the great Harry
Go Lions.
Gagnon. Go Lions, absolutely. The great Harry Gagnon from The Ringer and Against All Odds with Cousin Sal, and that is what we are picking this week, presented by Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. We will take a really quick break. When we come back, we'll dig into your Groovy Donut Twitter questions. Couch in the Roof.
Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play from your phone, tablet, or laptop. Get in on all the football action with pre- and in-game wagering. There's showdowns every week in football that you can't miss. Plus, the college and pro hoops are red hot, and the pucks are cool. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500 each. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117.
Where else can you cheer on your team, enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi, sip on handcrafted cocktails, or one of 46 beers on tap? Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. 2 amazing places with 1 awesome blended modern American-Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wonder how comfortable you can be and how good you can look? Put on a Muskox flannel and find out. Muskox has new arrivals for this fall, including the Caper Green Grand Flannel, which even makes couch look good. Muskox is a Detroit-based flannel company that creates soft and durable flannels made to last a lifetime. They become a great partner with Couch in the Rube, not just because they make us look good and feel good, but because they're good people too, and a socially conscious company. For every $100 purchase, $10 is donated to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation. Muskox flannels are designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. Feel the quality and comfort of a Muskox flannel by ordering at GoMuskox.com, where Couch in the Rube listeners can enjoy $15 off their flannel purchase with the promo code HOFF.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch in the Rube, our Friday show presented by our friends at Front 43 and Cask & Company, as well as Firekeepers Casino and iCasino and Sportsbook app. If you're looking for the in-house Vegas sportsbook experience, drive down just off I-94 in Battle Creek, Firekeepers Casino and Dacey's Tap Room and Sportsbook. Just an incredible place to hang out, to watch games, and to bet on games. Let's dig now into these Groovy Donut Twitter questions. Jason, you ready?
Yeah, man. Eric Schultz up first. You mentioned that you don't think Izzo thought it would look like this at the 5, or else he may have gone to the portal. Has anyone asked him what he envisioned the minutes distribution would look like at the 5 position coming into the year, and how we're seen as different?
It's a good question, and I don't think he has. At least it hasn't by me. I'm not around every conversation. Izzo has lots of conversations with lots of people. But in like a public setting, it's a good question, and probably one that should be asked and could have been asked yesterday because we had a long powwow with him for a while. And
Thanks a lot, Fred. Ruined the vibe.
Yeah, no. This was before. This was after that, and it was like even an off-record thing in his theater, his office, where he was showing some clips of some things that were going wrong for them. And the one thing he does a really good job of, and I give Izzo credit for this, is he wants the people who cover his team to understand things, right? That's why he gives access. That's why he, he'll answer your calls. Like, he does not want you to write something ignorantly. And so one of the things he, is trying to explain where they've made mistakes and where they haven't made mistakes, where it's actually been bad luck or whatever, what's gone wrong in a few games. And he showed clips from the Arizona game and the Nebraska game and the Wisconsin game and some plays where guys really messed up and some plays where you look at it and you go, man, that was really good defense. That was a great shot, and sort of to get an idea of where they've come up short, which you always appreciate. And then we just chatted about some other things. This did not come up, and I'll tell you what I think though the answer is. I think he saw this year. I think he saw Mady Sissoko giving them a little more than that he has, and I think that is, if there's a I don't know if it's a blind spot, but if there's been a real fault at the 5 position with Izzo, it's his belief in what Mady Sissoko could become as a player, and continued belief at times. And I have a sense that he knows what is now, but it seems to have taken a little long to get there. I think he saw those guys as sort of a 3-headed operation that would distribute the minutes with everybody getting between 15, 16, and 10 minutes. My hunch at the beginning of the year was by the end, Sissoko would be on the short end of that. But we'll see what happens when Kohler comes back. But that's a really good question, and it should be phrased exactly like that, Eric. And at the next opportunity where it makes sense, I will ask that for you.
Next one from Eric. Are we ever going to find out who that was on the CMU sideline, how he got there, and who sent him there? Has anyone followed up on that?
I can't believe somebody hasn't. It's not the story here that I deal with on a daily basis. It is weird that it hasn't come out yet on the CMU side. And people act like, I'll give you an example of a reason I think that story is going to come out. Somebody like a Tony Paul at the Detroit News. Tony Paul does not give a shit about, he doesn't have any homerism in him. He's not trying to protect anybody. He chases good stories that people are interested in, and gets good stories. And sometimes he'll get stories I think, gosh, he beat me to that. And sometimes when it goes the other way, I'll get a text from him that he was thinking about doing this, and it's always fun because he's got a good eye for that stuff. I guarantee you, a guy like that is looking into this, is not giving up on this, and so I'm. At some point, this will come out. It's weird that on CMU's end there hasn't been anything yet.
Dominic next. How in the cosmic fuck does Michigan have 8 home games in 2024 again? And why the hell isn't MSU doing this if it's allowed?
Wait, hold on. Give me some Hoff.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad.
Woo!
Feliz Navidad. Prospero año y felicidad.
Absolutely. Fucking everybody masturbates.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad.
Son of a goat, they do. So here would be the only excuse for Michigan I can come up with is that in the original 2024 schedule, they were supposed to play, because remember, everything got changed with the teams coming in. They were supposed to play 4 conference home games, 5 conference road games, because that's the way, anyway, when they redid the schedule, they got on the 5 side of home games and 4, and they already had predetermined dates with Texas at home, Fresno State, and Arkansas State. Now, at least it's a huge step up in competition. Fresno State's a decent program, and Texas is obviously in the playoff right now. So at least they're playing people. My guess is to cut Michigan some slack, because I didn't notice this before. My guess is their original schedule. This is the Big Ten's doing. What will be interesting is in 2025, when it reverses itself, if Michigan only has 6 home games. That's where we'll know this wasn't truly them skirting the system again, because like that happened to Ohio State, where they had a game switched, and then they had Notre Dame at home, and then they played like 8 at home and then 6 at home or something like that. So that if that happens, so be it. Otherwise, if it's 8, then this is just ridiculous. But at least it's a decent schedule, because I think they're at Texas the year after that, right? So, but that's how that may have happened.
Dominic, Jason, have you seen the Hallmark Christmas movie An Unexpected Christmas, starring Bethany Joy Levitt and Tyler Couch? Sure, it's ass.
He's making fun of
I know.
Sam Levitt and me, but
60-90.
Yeah. Well, I was at a Hallmark Christmas party the other night, by the way. What we did is we watched 2 movies, and you play. This is a really cool game. It's Hallmark Christmas Bingo, where because there are certain themes that are prevailing throughout all Hallmark movies, and so if it's like it's dead parent, it's snow falls on the first interrupted kiss. It's, the things like that. If it happens within the movie, you get bingo, and then you win prizes and stuff. Fantastic game. It was a great night.
I don't know how many MGs I would need to go to some shit like that. I'm thinking like 100.
It was a really good night. It was a fantastic night.
I'm happy that you guys had fun. It's just
a story almost worth telling, presented by Midtown Brewing Company and Downtown Lansing. All right, sorry.
God, I smoked weed and watched football last night. Dominic, Graham, when we miss the tournament, can I follow you and Lats around to film everything and make a documentary? I'll bring my own vehicle and hand sanitizer. I'm serious. So we need to refresh the bet then. We need to tell everybody what the exact bet is.
Okay, so the bet is if Michigan State does not make the NCAA tournament, correct? That's what we
correct.
Came to. Correct. Then I have to, I get to, I shouldn't, because Chad may be listening. I get to, what is it, lunch with Chad Latz, right?
You said you drive him around. So you have to show him Lansing a little bit, and then you guys have lunch.
No, there are two levels to the bet. It's if they miss the NCAA tournament, it's lunch with Latz.
Okay.
I think if they miss the NIT, I would drive him around for a day or whatever.
I don't understand what the punishment is, but yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I think that's...
Now I have something to root... Like if Michigan State's going to be ass.
Right.
It's going to be tough now. This is going to be worse than the Duke bet last year when I was in Vegas. I took Duke and I regretted it. I hated every second of it. But now I kind of want him to not make the tournament.
Or the NIT.
The logistics of getting Chad to your car, though, I just, man. Fuck. God bless you. JD, next. Can we maybe wait until the end of the season to ask Booker if he's transferred?
I think we missed one from Dominic here.
Oh, shit. Oh, Dominic. Sorry, Dominic. Graham, I do appreciate you and your work, and I'm willing to let it all slide without listening to my W's. Do you see it as growth that I don't feel the need to list my W's? But I was right about Sowards, Dave Warner, Jay Johnson, Mahdi, and Shep. Yes, Couch defended him early.
I was an early defender of Shep. I do see it as growth. I mean,
why wouldn't you defend Shep early? He's a good guy, and regular Joe.
And you got to grow into that role a little bit. He's covering a bad team. Early on, I think.
We all were.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, they made a big upgrade. He got 5 years to do it. And it's look, if it's fair to ask Xavier Booker if he's transferring, it's fair to tell Shep after 5 or 6 seasons that it's
I don't know. It depends on who you ask. There's a lot of depressed people about hearing about Shep. It's like,
I think
what are we supposed to do?
Most people are pretty excited about the
I would think everybody should be, yeah. But like you said, he did get 5 years. JD, next. Can we maybe wait until the end of the season to ask Booker if he's transferring? It's December, for fuck's sake, and for Bo McJunkins. Be patient with Booker, the reporters say. 9 games in. Hey, Xavier, you thought about transferring? 9 games in. Make it make sense to me. It may be a fair question at the end of the year, but now?
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between being a fair question and a pertinent question. I would probably not have asked it because it wasn't on my mind now. But I remember having a sit down with Pierre Brooks, and I believe that was in January of his freshman year. I can't even remember at this point, but asking him if he thought about leaving before Christmas, because I had inklings that there had been some talk of that. And so it's a fair question, and it's a fair question now more than ever. And it's a fair question always now, because right now, who was the kid years ago? Brandon Kearney left before Christmas. Kids leave all the time at weird times. You never know when a kid's just going to say, that's it, I'd rather do something else and be somewhere else. I didn't think it was necessary, but I also think it's good that Booker had to address it in the way he did, the way he said he didn't want to run from the grind. And maybe he'll decide at the end of the year he'd rather be somewhere else. But for a guy who makes, more than Shep did, you can ask these questions. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw that back in.
$500,000?
But I will say that I didn't love the way Fred brought it up. It was in the rumor here is that what's the rumor? Like that's not really what was true. It's more the people are wondering, and I think that's a fair thing to say. There's not a rumor that he's transferring. There's been no substantiated he's leaving or that sort of thing. I haven't heard that from a single person. And I think quite the opposite with him. I talked to, I sat down with Jeremy Fears Jr. For a few minutes after talking with Booker, just alone, talking to him about their relationship. And those two are roommates. And Fears is an incredibly important person in this. I mean, Fears is somebody who pushes Xavier Booker, has the pulse of him, understands why he's going through it. I mean, Fears talked about all this stuff about being a big guy and how different a transition that is than being a little guy. Because when you're little, you're the same. You're a guard your whole life, and you don't have advantages size wise in high school and AAU. Whereas all of a sudden, everything you've been able to get away with because you're supremely talented and longer and taller and all this stuff than everybody else doesn't work anymore. And that's where Booker is. And we'll see. It was a fair question. Was it pertinent? No.
Maybe next. Which game would you expect Jackson Kohler to be back?
I would say the Indiana State game, the first game after Christmas. If I had to guess, I would. If you were setting gambling odds, I would put it between the Indiana State game and the Stony Brook game. I think he's supposed to be, able to do some full court stuff. It's possible right before Christmas, especially if he's going to be able to work out full with the team over Christmas once they get back, that they get him on the court a little bit. But I would put those two games as the most likely games. And Indiana State's really good. Like Michigan State's basketball schedule is sort of insane. I can tell Izzo's a little annoyed with Kevin Pauga about it. And with transfers, you never know what these guys are going to be. But between Indiana State and James Madison, those might be the two best mid-majors in the country this year, and they just happen to schedule them both. Like when they're just no games to ease back into stuff. Indiana State's killing people right now. They're dominant, and that's a really good team. And hold on, give me some hot for a second. So I guess Indiana State's down at 54 in Ken Palm because they haven't played enough people, and they did lose by 20 to Alabama at one point. But they just beat Southern Illinois, which is a pretty good team, by 30. They beat Bradley. They beat Northern Illinois by 23. They beat the Southern Indiana team that Michigan State smacked around, but Indiana State just beat them 98 to 54. Like they're not. That's going to be a really, really intriguing game to watch in a couple weeks. But that would be the game I guess he's back for.
And we said, would somebody please guard somebody?
Maybe. What do you think about Draymond's suspension?
What do you think of Draymond's indefinite suspension?
Well, it's indefinite, right? How many games are they going to slap on it? I don't know. We come from the era, Graham, where each team in the 90s had a Draymond Green who would try to get in your head. He's taking it way too far, obviously. Charles Barkley was on Dan Patrick the other day and said, basically, when I was in Houston at the end of Barkley's career, he was just like hammering people because he knew he was out of shape and couldn't play. So is that the case with Draymond where, and everybody's like, oh, his mental health and all this shit. It's just like, does Draymond want to play basketball anymore? Does he want to cash in on this $100 million extension? Because that's what the Warriors are thinking. Like, shit, we just gave this guy an extension. But to me, when I saw what he did to Nurkic, it looked like he did it on purpose. Like when he did the swing around and the chokehold with Gobert, it's all just, it's weird stuff, but I feel like it's a Dennis Rodman kind of thing he's trying to do or something. Yeah. That's what Rodman used to do.
Yeah, I can't decide whether it's like, just late in his career, he's got a few more antics to him. The problem is when you listen to Kerr speak, Steve Kerr, the Warriors coach, it sounds more concerned for Draymond, like this is an escalation, like between the Jordan Poole stuff and this, and then choking out Rudy Gobert, like.
Did he really choke him out?
Well, yeah, but this is just different, and they're actually a little concerned about it because he just can't keep himself on the floor, and it's killing them, and yeah. So the fact that they sound a little concerned for him,
it makes me think that it's the Barkley thing where he figured out he really can't keep up anymore, maybe, and he's just trying to become.
Been playing well. I don't. Yeah, I don't. It's a good question though. It's a good question.
Next one from maybe. Is Sky Mint okay? Relatedly, could there be a retirement graduation eulogy when your sponsors change? Not disrespectfully, just an acknowledgement. It's unsettling to realize they're gone.
We do like a pour out one for somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know on the future of Skymint as a company.
Not with us, but
yeah. So
it was a good run.
It was a great run.
Yeah.
They were really good to us for a long time, and we're hoping to have something new to report rather shortly here. in the cannabis field and a really good fit and good mix for us. So
what a tease.
Yeah, we'll hopefully have that for you.
Should we announce though when like a sponsor? I mean, it's not. We have had sponsors that have just been what's the word I'm trying to think of?
Had for a certain period or a
yeah,
cycle?
We had
or
it for, it's not like there's any animosity with any of them,
No.
the former ones or
no.
Get it.
Sometimes they change marketing directors, or sometimes it almost all of them have been pleased with what we've done with them, and or certain situations change in their business,
or they hear Graham's hooker story and decide
that's it. Yeah. We could come up with a sponsor change ceremony. That would be not a bad a eulogy sort of deal.
Thank you, Skyman. All right. Richard Kane next. Why is MSU a one-coach basketball program? Judd Heathcote won a national championship and is in the Hall of Fame. Yes, Izzo wildly surpassed Judd's accomplishments, but it's not like Judd was a scrub.
So this is a good question, but I'll explain why. Because the expectations to which Michigan State fans have for Michigan State basketball, it is truly a one-coach program. If Judd Heathcote, if his run, you look at what happened during the 80s with him, or you look at the number of NITs, I mean, people would be calling for his job constantly. They were a middling Big Ten program. I mean, give me some Hoff one more time. Okay. So let's look at Tom. Tom Izzo wins a national title in 2000, and the next year they're back in the Final Four. Judd Heathcote wins it in 79, right? He has his 2 years of magic where they go 25-5, 26-6, Elite Eight, and win a national championship. Then he goes. This is from 79-80 through 84. 12-15 perceived to be today. And Izzo changes that. I mean, Izzo comes in and they go 7th, 6th, 2 NIT seasons, and this is the Big Ten rankings. First, 5th, 3rd, 2nd, 2nd, 6th, 7th, 4th. First, 4th. First, 2nd, 3rd, 2nd, 5th. First, 8th, 7th, 4th. Like, there's just no comparison. Totally different program, and the NCAA tournament consistency and all that stuff. It's a one-coach program.
Richard Kane next. What is your favorite gift each of you has ever received?
Best gift you've ever gotten?
It's easy. 1986, BMX, Diamondback, green, white mag wheels, white grips, white seat. I still have the picture. I'll have to post it again around Christmas time. But I still remember the feeling, and it was awesome. Have you ever tried going on eBay and buying something that you had when you were younger? Or look for it?
It's not a bad idea.
I know I did. I found one, but they want like $800 for one, and it's not like I'm too big. I can't ride the fucking thing. And what would it do? Just like hang it in the house or something? But I think it would be fun to look at.
Yeah.
Though,
no,
here
you
and there.
Smile. Yeah. No, I don't think there's anything wrong with having that. If you got a place for it, that's not like it doesn't have to be over your mantle.
I know, but if you're going to spend $800 on something though, have it sit there.
It's a nice gift. Yeah, I would say for me, it's between Castle Grayskull in 1983. I believe Christmas 83.
83? You were what, 4?
Yeah, just turned 4.
You remember that?
Yeah. Well, it was a big deal because my parents didn't want to get it for me because they thought it was too violent, the He-Man cartoon. But the problem was, I had asked Santa for it, and it was the only thing I asked for. So they were in a spot, and they were like, "Shit!" And they went out on Christmas Eve and got it.
Is He-Man really violent? I don't think so.
I don't know. Yeah. So I got the Castle Grayskull, and then I would say the series. I've got these little Dunkit basketball hoops, and for a couple of years, they were like these cardboard ones I could play in the living room, little rubber basketball or whatever. But and I would break those pretty quickly. So they bought me a plastic one that was a little sturdier. That still to this day, you talk about wanting your old bike, like it's in our basement. And Elizabeth looks at it like, what is it? What is that thing doing here? And like, to me, I still like looking at it and being like, that is, that's my hoop. That's an 8-year-old. I got to think when I was 88, maybe 89.
Yeah.
It just
put it in your office then, or wherever your office is in the house or wherever
I don't really
right. I mean, you can't put it up somewhere.
I don't really have a place, but yeah. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, no, it's some. I did have it more prominently displayed at the previous house. Then Elizabeth moved in.
Richard King, can you please explain what Izzo means when he talks about cutting out?
It's basically boxing out. Cutting out, like, you got to block out the free throw shooter. Cutting out, it's more or less he means boxing out and rebounding.
Tejas Green next. Why are A.J. Hoggard and Jaden Akins playing so badly? I'm going to the Baylor game. Any hope for a dub?
I do think there's hope. I've watched a little bit of this Baylor team, and their numbers are, I don't want to say the numbers are better than they are, because they're a really good team. They're average, they scored 88 points like 7 times or something, and they haven't lost, obviously. Michigan State hasn't scored 88 points once. Offensive efficiency is good as there is in the country, leading the country in three-point shooting. Lots of things to like about them. But they're not Arizona, put it that way. Like, they're not, and MSU almost won that game. And I think it'll be a pretty lively atmosphere. It'll be fun at Little Caesars Arena. I think MSU will play well. They'll rise to the occasion. I think it'll be a really good game. It's just hard to pick Michigan State to finish a game right now based on what we've seen. So I picked Baylor. But, yeah, I think it'll be a really good game. And the first part of the question, Hoggard and Akins, that is the question, right? And I think, one of the things that Izzo has sort of speculated a little bit is, Jaden Akins, he's tried to do a little more this year in a sense of what he thinks the NBA wants from him, and maybe that's changed his readiness to shoot and just let it fly. I don't know. I don't know if I buy that a little bit. I think some of it's just a guy's in a slump trying to figure out his role. The spacing's been a little different, and he didn't get off to a good shooting start, and then it's in your head a little bit. I still think Jaden Akins will be fine this year. I just don't know about, I really wondered if there was a real step forward for him, and I don't know that we'll see that. With Hoggard, I think part of it is I don't think he handled having Jeremy Fears Jr. behind him all that well. And he had some slow starts. I also think there's not a great offensive team, and when you're the point guard of a team that's not that good offensively, and you're starting Mady Sissoko at center, and how are you supposed to get off to a great start with that particular team? But that said, he hasn't always played well. He's played better the last 2 games, so we'll see if that continues.
Clocked in Spartan next. After Xavier Booker averages only 3 points this season, next season, will we say he only averaged 3 points a game and won't be that big of a contributor like guys are doing with Kohler? Is it because he's a goofy white kid that we all aren't assuming he's going to own the Big Ten soon?
No, it's because we saw him play. The difference between Booker and Kohler is that Booker has some real physical gifts that Kohler just doesn't have. I think Jackson Kohler can be a fantastic college player, but he's never going to have a 7'4", 7'5" wingspan and be 6'11" with a 40-plus inch vertical. Those are just things that allow you to, as you grow into your game, have advantages that Kohler doesn't. Now, to Jackson Kohler's credit, he reshaped his body. I think he understands what it's going to take for him to be really successful in the Big Ten. And I also think that what success looks like for him this year, especially coming off a foot injury, which definitely derails the season a little bit, is mostly how the offense looks around him. It's the offense he provides, but it's what he can provide the offense in terms of instinctive things and passing and other things, and just feel for the game that the other guys need. I think, to me, how I'll sort of judge Jackson Kohler this year is the overall offense and the plus minus when he's in the game.
BPA next. Can you explain your apprehension to Judge Izzo until Jackson Kohler gets back? Isn't the fact we had 0 qualified big men ready to play in case of injury enough evidence we should hit the portal?
Because you can't, in basketball especially, if you lose your point guard anywhere, if you lose a key player, you can't count on losing guys. You're not going to have 2 of the same. For example, Charlie Coles, when I used to cover the MAC, I lived in Kalamazoo, by the way. He used to say in the MAC, you're one ankle injury away from the best team is one ankle injury away from being the worst team. There was that much parity. It's just hard to have. It's hard to have a lot of guys, and if you're Tom Izzo and you think with Jackson Kohler, Carson Cooper, Mady Sissoko, you'll be able to figure it out. You'll have enough. You don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but you'll be all right. And then you lose the best offensive component, the most different of those guys. That's what I'm saying. And yeah, you can't. In basketball, this isn't football. Like in football, I'm a believer you got to have more than 2 defensive backs. You can't, hey, they got a defensive back injury. Yeah, every defensive back gets hurt. In basketball, you're counting on your roster being pretty whole, at least in the men's game.
Company man next. Would Izzo make a blood sacrifice of the tourney streak ending this year for one more guaranteed Final Four run?
Package it with some groovy donuts.
A blood sacrifice?
No, I didn't mean that.
Oh.
Take that. We'll fix that in post. I didn't mean the blood sacrifice. I was going to try to do a live read of the groovy donuts.
If you're going to have a blood sacrifice, groovy donut, get some groovy donuts.
Yeah, no, it didn't go well. We will fix that. Do you think Izzo would, Jason, guaranteed Final Four to give? I don't think he would.
No,
I think the streak really matters to him.
It does, and I think that he would believe he has more Final Fours in him. Even though if he was told, listen, Tom, it's only going to be one, I promise you, he'd still go, all right, we're still going to go after it.
Yeah, I think if he thought there was no path to Final Four, he's going to need a lot of luck to get there. I think,
like this year,
right? They're going to need some luck to get. They're going to need some things to change a little bit. But I do not think he'd give that up for one more guaranteed Final Four run. Now, you change that to a national championship, it's a different conversation.
Company man, in a potential trade, Lansing and Detroit, what is a proper value for the state capital? The Pistons naming rights to Detroit-style pizza?
I see this, yeah. Now, this is a good opportunity for a live read, right? Because you can package Groovy Donuts in with any trade. No, I'm just kidding. We're not shipping Groovy Donuts out. Groovy Donuts is important here. And by the way, Groovy Donuts has Christmas donuts available, holiday donuts, all next weekend. So order yours now. Go to groovydonuts.com. It's especially if you want like a Grinch donut. These are the things that go quickly. They need to know how many to make. Go to groovydonuts.com. Place your order today. But they're going to have holiday donuts. You can swing on by either location. They're open 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday through Sunday. If you've got a big day of football planned this weekend, Groovy Donuts is a great way to start your day. I'm telling you right now, there is no better feeling than having a freaking box of half dozen or dozen Groovy Donuts and belted in on the seatbelt next to you, cup of coffee from Groovy Donuts, driving back to your house knowing you have a long day of watching football. It is like pure joy and bliss. You, too, can enjoy that bliss by going to groovydonuts.com, placing an order, or swinging by either location, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday through Sunday. To answer the question, would you say 2 pro sports? You're giving up the state capitol, the beautiful building. You're giving up having the state government here.
For the Pistons?
You wouldn't do it for the Pistons. No.
Yeah.
You do it two pro sports franchises.
2.
You think about everything here, like just having 41 Pistons home games a year isn't gonna. You need 2. You got to get the Pistons, or it's got to be something like the Tigers, 80 games. You got to get 80 dates a year. So it's either Pistons and Red Wings, or the Tigers, and we get to keep the Capitol building and turn it into like the coolest freaking whatever we turn it into place to live. Like. Who doesn't want to live in the Capitol apartments?
Is this a possible July topic?
It could be.
Man.
Yeah, there we go.
Cinemod, how can this team still make the Final Four? Give me your optimistic take. I need to feel something.
The Arizona game is it. And you watch what happened to Wisconsin and Arizona. Never in the game, right? And Michigan State is still, to me, one of probably 8 to 10 teams in the country that on a given day can go toe-to-toe with Arizona, even if and deliver a punch that gives them a shot at the end. And so we all talk about runs and match, the idea of Michigan State could put 4 straight games together. But think about last year. So say Michigan State, the last time they were 4-5 in a season was 20 years ago. They wound up as a 6 seed, and they lose to George Mason in that first round. So let's take that out of it. But say they wind up as a 6 seed again. They finished, they won 75% of the Big Ten games that year. They beat an 11 seed. They're playing a 3. Like, they're going to have a 50-50 shot. I don't say 50-50 shot. If they're playing well, if they get to a point where they're a 6 seed of beating a 3 seed, they're going to have a shot at beating anybody on a given day more than a lot of teams just because they do have veterans and they do have some the capability of that. Guys who aren't scared of that moment. I think the other thing you have to look at is what MSU has by having some young guys and guys that haven't played well and a guy who's out injured is the opportunity still to change and grow into the season. So that would be my optimistic spin take. Do I believe this is a Final Four team? There is zero that I've watched that makes me believe this is a Final Four team other than the second half against Arizona, Final Four capable team. And so the overall body of work says no. But for the optimistic take, there are a lot of teams out there with better records than Michigan State that have no shot at a Final Four. Michigan State is not that team.
Cinemod, favorite MSU athlete? For me, I really liked Matt Trannon or Raymar Morgan. Paul Davis is also lit.
Who's yours?
Also lit. Obviously, Kenny Willekes. Are we just doing? We do any MSU athlete, right?
Yeah.
I liked Eric Morris back in the day, the early 2000s. Obviously, Keith Appling was my guy. Who else? Blake Ezor.
I love Blake.
Much it, yeah.
I love Blake Ezor. I grew my hair out under my Hutch helmet once to be Blake Ezor for Halloween. It was who didn't want the curls,
Who didn't? Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I interviewed a boxer, Michael Bennett, in Chicago. Who'd just gotten out of prison, and it was a good story. He was trying to be an Olympic boxer and all this.
Upstate.
And you might have known him. And he was his favorite athlete. I asked him who he was. He goes, "Oh, you're not going to know it. It's this kind of obscure white running back from Michigan State." I was like, try me.
Blake Ezor?
Blake Ezor, yeah.
Like, what do you mean?
He was in Chicago at the time. I'm like in college. I'm like, yeah, I know Blake Ezor. Yeah, for me, it was, in terms of Michigan State, like back in my fan days, it's probably, Sean Respert, when I was 15 years old.
Back
would be
in my fan days.
No doubt.
You're still a fan.
And then covering the team, Cassius Winston is probably it. I mean, just the conversations we used to have, and just it's Cassius Winston.
Cinemod, NBA would be more fun to watch if there were more punching Draymonds.
It would be. I don't know if the league would. Yeah.
I mean, but Draymond, it just feels like he's doing it on purpose. Like back in the day when something went down and you were protecting one of your guys, that was more natural and organic. It just seems, I don't know what's going on with Draymond.
Yeah, this seemed like a really dumb reaction, given that how much he's been off the court, given how much it could hurt the team.
Well, and we always talk about the presser afterwards. That is your time to apologize and make sure, you get your voice. He was just kind of...
He was making up bullshit.
Yeah, he wasn't concerned about it whatsoever after the game. So that, coupled with what he did on the court, Yep. Michael Warhite next. It's sad that I am looking more forward to football already than basketball. Not to beat a dead horse, but don't you think the freshmen will improve more with some playing time as opposed to riding the bench? What do we have to lose?
They would improve for the most part, as long as you don't lose confidence. That's why you want a good mix. But yeah, and that's you're seeing 20 minutes a game right now from Cohen Carr, for example. The one that for Jeremy Fears Jr., I do think the more time you can get him, the better. Because I really think he'll grow into the season. And that's a challenge. That's the Hoggard challenge. Is winning versus developing. And what you have to lose is winning. And the question now, when you lose at Nebraska, and you lose because your big guys play horribly, and because they don't give you any rebounding or they're not good enough defensively, and what the guy they're guarding, that Mass kid from Nebraska, is tearing. I mean, some of the passes he threw going back were incredible, and it wasn't actually bad defense all the time, but it makes you think, why doesn't Michigan State have that Mass kid, right? Like that's he was really some of the backdoor passes he threw and whatnot. But once you get to that point, it's time to put Xavier Booker on the floor a little bit and to let him take his lumps and have to figure it out. And he does every day in practice. He knows the level he needs to be at, but you might as well deal with it there. And, because here's the thing, if Booker gives up an extra couple points than Sissoko or Cooper would have in a short stretch, but every couple games he hits a three, you're not better, but you're the same. You got the same issue, but it's just different. And I do think you want to see if Xavier Booker can grow into somebody who can help you this season, and it's time for him to have some sort of role. Now, it gets interesting because they're playing a good Baylor team with a legit 7-footer in a game they want to win. And I would ask MSU fans this. If you were told you could win the game or you could play Xavier Booker 8 minutes, what would you choose? And I think because those two things may not work together. In a game where in a team that does not have a great margin for error, we can point at the last game and say, well, look at how bad the big guys are, but they haven't always been that bad. And so I think, you have to trust the staff to some degree that they know what's best. Now, again, the evidence in the last game was why the hell aren't you playing Xavier Booker if this is what you're getting anyway? And I think that's what Izzo and his staff have kind of come to, and I do think he will see the floor at least in the first half. He might get that old Pierre Brooks freshman year deal where Brooks would play like 3-4 minutes every first half, and whether he got a stretch in the second half depended on game state, game situation, and how other matchups were going, and that may be what happens this week.
B. Crow next. With what we've seen so far in the future, do you think Booker is closer to a Bingham than a Jaren Jackson? Do you think Fears is closer to a Tum Tum than a Lucas?
I'll start with Fears. Fears and Tum Tum are not on the same planet. And Lucas was a 2-time All Big Ten point guard, so I don't want to just say he's a 2-time Big Ten Player of the Year. But Fears, in terms of talent, in terms of having everything, and Fears in terms of natural leadership and other things like that, is ahead of Lucas, I think. But Fears, I think, is going to be a terrific player. I really do. I really think he's going to be a very good guard, and we see evidence of it here and there. I think he'll be a very good guard as a sophomore. I think he'll be a good guard by the end of this year, but I think that one's not close. The Bingham versus Jaren Jackson, though, the thing, Bingham had some skill, and he had some motor issues, and that may be, but I'm going to talk about thighs again, Jason.
Uh-oh.
Bingham had these thighs, the slender, skinny, spindly thighs, and I don't like to look too often at men's thighs, but it's a giveaway. Like, Bingham was not the athlete because he didn't have the ability to get strength to create the lift or whatever. Like, there are things that Xavier Booker has that Bingham won't. Now, will he become a better player? Will he become closer to Jaren Jackson? And we only saw 1 year of Jaren Jackson at Michigan State. But, that's a really good question. I think his tools lead me to believe I would say closer to Jaren Jackson. But if the motor is an issue, if it continues to be one, and we don't really know yet, then it's Bingham.
Jake Hawkins next. Do you think Xavier Booker should get a lot of minutes tomorrow to help counter Baylor's three-point shooting?
See, Jake, I moved up at your request, Jason.
Nice.
Yeah. And by the way, if you're down in the show, like, we're looking for a pacing of the show. We don't want the back half of the show to suck. Like, we want it to be like we put good questions throughout the show, and we put shitty questions throughout the show. We try to balance it out. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. I don't think he'll get a lot of minutes, but like I said, my guess is he'll play between 4 minutes and between 3 minutes and 8 minutes tomorrow, and it'll be about seeing what he can do and how he can hang in there. And if he goes out there and plays well, that would be the best case situation. And what playing well for him is, yes, if he can hit a three, that's terrific. But what happened the last time he was out there is he shot the ball, and then on the other end, he gave up layups or he gave up dunks. Like, he's got to be, stronger and more of a presence near the rim. And defensively, he's got to be in the right places. If he does those things, he'll keep playing a lot.
Next one from Jake. Have you checked out the new Frasier revival on Paramount Plus?
I was going to ask you this earlier.
Me? No.
I have not.
No.
I need to, though. I love Frasier. It's a great show.
I used to. I don't have any need for it now. It was good back then. You know what I mean? You have to get on the app. You have to fire it up. It's like,
yeah. At some point I will, because there's enough soccer on Paramount Plus that every time I'm on it, I see the little.
Well, there you go. You can throw an episode on.
Yeah.
Here and there.
I don't. Yeah. This probably won't do it till the summer, but at some point I will.
Zeke's fan page. How much NIL does a student athlete need to make to be criticized without first saying she is just a kid?
I mean, this is the question, right? I mean, there's still, it doesn't change your age. It does make you question about how, I mean, first of all, you should treat every person with respect. But how you criticize a 19-year-old pro in the NBA versus So let me give you an example. If a lot of freshmen in high school or freshmen in college now are already 19. Some are 20. Some seem like they're 26. Who knows? But there are freshmen. So you could be a freshman in college and be younger than a guy like Max Christie a year ago. If you're older than Max Christie but in college and making more than him, is because you're in college make you less able to criticize if you're now being paid? And it's not paid just endorsements. You're being paid to play. That's what NIL collectives are. These are good questions. I think it comes down to always treating everybody like they have a mother and everybody fairly, regardless of their age. But it does change the discourse and the conversation about players with this. And some of these guys are doing really well. But you also have to recognize that this is sometimes their first time living away from home. And some of these guys have been to 6 prep schools since they were 12, and this is old hat. But some of these guys, it's the first time living away from home. They are truly freshmen. And you think about who you were as a freshman in college or who you were at 18 or 19 years old and how, I mean, I went to Lansing Community College partly because I needed the academic lift at the time, wasn't taking some things seriously and loved it there. But I also went because I graduated high school at 17, and I was not ready to go to a place like Chicago. That city would have eaten me alive at 17. By 19, I was ready. So you are different in a couple of years. And these are really good questions. I don't know what the money is. I don't know what the situation is. I think you just keep treating people with respect. But there are questions that are going to be different now for all these kids.
Next one from Zeke's fan page. What is your favorite thing about each other? Trying to build up your egos.
What's your favorite thing about me, man?
That you're self-deprecating, that doing this show, and hosting it and doing all the live reads and shit. And you still, you're good at getting your balls busted because you're going to get your balls busted. So it makes this show fun, and the only reason why it's lasted more than a year, to be honest with you. So,
yeah, I would say with Jason, it's that at his core, he's just a really, really good dude. And that makes it, again, it allows... He's able to put up with shit, all the prison time talk. But
as
he
long
does,
as it's funny, I don't care.
But he does care. I mean, he does care deeply. Like it's not, and he's also secondary. I mean, the Rube we joke, and he does Rube things from time to time. But it's a little bit of a bit. He's a much smarter guy than he comes across. Those would be my things.
Wow, let's end the show
right now. That's
better than that.
Yeah,
Thanks,
wrap
man.
it up. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thanks, man. Steve Graham. You seem to have some knowledge of how much 2023 MSU basketball players are being NIL compensated. Recently, Booker mentioned. What is your best guess on total comp for the team?
$3 million.
And half of that's Booker, right?
Nope, not half of it.
Oh,
but that is. I'm just going to say that's my best guess, and you can take it from there. I feel pretty good about that guess.
All right, Andrew Gauthier next. Graham. Can we get more of you taking on the slights against Lansing? Maybe LSJ could consider a series of what makes Lansing awesome. The only time we seem to hear about the city is when something opens, closes, or expands. Not much else. And a much larger focus seems to fall on big chains rather than local joints who deserve and even need a larger spotlight.
Yeah, I would love to take on more slights against Lansing. It's finding time to do so. But, yeah, I would love to write more big-picture Lansing stuff. If we had the other sports storyteller job filled right now at the Lansing State Journal, I would probably do that more often because there's a cost to doing a lot of that stuff. But, yes, and you are right that sometimes it does seem like the focus, becomes on things that are opening and closing or some chain that's coming to town and, we probably need to focus on other things more. But I think like Rachel Greco does a pretty good job at doing the local stuff and keeping the pulse on things. But yeah, there's no doubt we can always improve that. And any listener, like if you care about the Lansing area, you're from the Lansing area, whatever, and you have a cool story about anything, reach out to me because we'd love to know it. And a lot of times it's a matter of knowing what's happening and to tell cool stories.
Some dude next. Number one, Graham is 147% correct that no one should worship these coaches like they do because we don't know them and they don't care about us.
But Graham, you've known Izzo for a long time, and by most accounts, he's a good person. Does Izzo care about someone like you personally? What is the dividing line? Some are not quite as self-absorbed as others.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying Izzo doesn't. I mean, Izzo and I get along well at this point. We've had some moments here and there, and I do think he is a caring person. I think he cares, and that, like, he doesn't know my wife's name, but I've also, I know who Lupe Izzo is because she's Lupe Izzo, and I've talked to her a couple times, but we don't, we're not friends, if that makes sense. But here's a good example. I went to Drew Sharp's funeral 6 years ago, however it was at this point, and Tom Izzo gave the eulogy, and he probably was a little closer with Drew than he is with other writers, but it was partly asked because he was somebody you wrote about a lot, somebody you got to know a little bit, and Tom Izzo cared enough to do that, and I think that says it. So, yeah, I mean, I do think he would, the level of care, I don't know.
So Izzo won't be at your funeral?
More likely,
because he's going to live that long.
More likely to kill me than do my eulogy. No, I'm kidding. So, yeah, I mean, does he care? Yeah, I mean, if I were to die tomorrow, I think Izzo would be upset about that.
Because the Chad Latz bet never came through,
right? But yeah. So yeah, I mean, we're not friends, but we're.
But you hug every once in a while.
It's a good working relationship right now, and I think he does care about people in his sphere. I think he is a caring person.
To Jonathan Smith. Wait, who is this? Did I not read that question?
No, sorry, it's some dude. Sorry.
Okay, sorry, some dude. Here's another question. Jonathan Smith is showing serious competence just a few weeks into the job. We can't already say he's going to be a great coach, but we can assume that he'll at least be a good one. In a Big Ten, mostly ass, competence should get you 8 to 9 wins per year, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think based on what he did at Oregon State, you can say he's a good coach. So there are things that you have to have, at Michigan State, you got to have decent NIL. But in terms of building a culture and building, I have, like, if you told me to bet a lot of money that Michigan State wins, say the next 6 years, the Michigan State wins at least 8 games 3 times, I would bet a lot of money on that. Because I think he's going to be, at minimum, a real high-floor coach.
Brad, next, what are your thoughts on MSU's new defensive coordinator hire?
I mean, the things I read, a lot of people like him a lot. Sometimes, I'm always skeptical about, Feldman tweeted out, what a magical coach he was, and I'm pretty sure that was just what Joe Rossi's agent told Feldman to say. So I don't really know, but a lot of people, it was interesting to see that PJ Fleck had a lot of nice things to say about the guy leaving. There are a lot of people who have said a lot of good things about Rossi, who covered him and worked with him, and he's had some good defenses. I don't know the man yet, but it seems like a good hire. Like, who was going to be a better hire than that? And he's done it in the Big Ten. He has Midwest roots, recruited in Michigan from Pittsburgh. So I think from the outside right now, it looks like a good hire. He's the same age as Jonathan Smith, and I'm not saying that's essential. It's not. But when you're building a staff and you're in the same place, sometimes your families, your age, the interest, where you are in your career, I think sometimes that is helpful, and it makes the working environment fun for these guys too.
Matt C. next. So do we thank Mel Tucker for playing with his balls now that Jonathan Smith is killing it with his staff and in the portal? Vibes are so much better around the football program now, even compared to last year. And from Ryan S., do you think MSU football is in a better position for long-term success today than if Mel Tucker was still around?
Yes, to that last part. Only I think there were some things that were good that were happening with Tucker in terms of the recruiting classes and the elevating the number of 4 stars. And I think the 2022 and 23 recruiting classes had a lot of good stuff going, and 24 might have been okay too. There were some. It felt like just long term. I couldn't tell if it was going to end well, and obviously it didn't. But you know what I mean? You're like, I didn't know if the fit was going to be great when he starts telling me about, you know, the NIL shortcomings, and you know, you could see the frustration there. And I didn't know if what he wanted the program to be was ever going to be something it could be. And then so much of how he was perceived and his expectations were about that contract. And even though Jonathan Smith from the school itself is probably making just as much money, but I think that is yes. So to answer the second part, and the vibes are, anytime you get something new, there's definitely a vibe shift. There are going to be frustrations, though, with Jonathan Smith at some point. There will be frustrations with one of his coordinators, at least. And so anytime you get something new, that shifts the vibes. And so I think that's but, yeah, so far I think it's been a pretty good start for him.
Matt C. Next, what type of NIL package did Eric give you guys to always be the first on hot takes and Twitter questions? He either dropped the bag or provided Jason protection when he did his bid upstate.
Eric was your right-hand man.
Thanks for all the protection, Eric Schultz.
Yeah. No, it's an Xavier Booker bag, you know, Aidan Chiles bag. No,
it's pretty simple how Eric got up first. He was keeping track of the weekly picks or whatever contest that Graham still does.
Yeah. No, he's been magical.
Doesn't take much.
Well, that's a time-consuming thing, and it is much.
Right. That's why I told you we should do it.
Well, no, you were right. But Eric.
But it was very nice of Eric to do that.
Yeah. A godsend.
Witty username next. What will it take for sports radio caller or MSU fan Twitter to not use recruiting rankings or hype as ironclad gospel?
Look, the recruiting rankings industry has this down. They've, and I'm not saying they've sold you a bill of goods, because a lot of 5 stars are 5 stars, but they have built this world where everybody's bought in, and it's always going to be like. Because here's the thing, you can say rankings don't matter, but if Michigan State winds up with like a top 10 recruiting class ever in football, people are going to tout that. And coaches do the same thing. When coaches don't have a highly ranked recruiting class, they're like, these guys don't know. The second they do, even on their signing day press conferences, it's about, well, Rivals ranked us here, 24/7 ranked us here. They use it to their advantage. So as long as they're doing it, it shouldn't be ironclad gospel. There are so many examples, including one of the great recruiting classes, 2010 or 11, I'm blanking on which year right now. Michigan State football's best recruiting class might have been the best recruiting class in the country that year. It was only ranked in the 20s or 25s, and they've got a good deal. People like, I love it. They've created a situation with the crystal balls where it's like it's beautiful. All of us had that level of reporting for something being done. Like it allows them to have minimal accountability in terms of sourcing and having something really iron shut and yet reporting it. I had this for a crystal ball that this kid was coming. Like if I operated with a crystal ball, there's lots of stuff you could have first. But so it's a whole business.
So take it with a grain of salt. You can be excited about it, but just remember that these guys can change their mind at any time.
And they do it because people are obsessed with it, and it is fun. And so I'm not knocking them for it. I'm just saying, it is not gospel.
David Jackson next. Was Rocky Lombardi beating Michigan in 2020 the tipping point that convinced Michigan that they had to cheat to win big?
I have.
It's got to be one of them up there, right?
That moment where it's like Michigan again, Michigan State.
I remember
again.
I bet on Northern Illinois this year. I was like, Rocky Lombardi's still the fucking quarterback. It's unbelievable. What a career.
Usually by your 7th year, something goes wrong, though.
It's awesome. David Jackson. How many scholarship quarterbacks will be on the 2024 MSU football team, and what classes will they be in?
I think they'll have 3. I think you'll have a true freshman, and I think you'll have a transfer. That would be my guess. And maybe you'll have 2 true freshmen, but I doubt that. My guess is you'll have 3 scholarship guys, and it's a tricky spot getting that transfer, but I think it's really important that they do, and they figure out who that is, and because you may never be the guy, you may never get to play, and it's a hard thing to recruit.
Next one from David is MSU hockey player Artyom Levshovnov. Levshovnov.
He's number 5.
A one and done, or will he be here next year? Can we call him Levy?
Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously a hell of a player, and if you go to a game and look for number 5, he stands out, right? Freshman. Yeah, I don't know exactly what his deal is. He's not a drafted kid, though, right? So, yeah, it's a good question. I haven't looked into whether he'll be back. He's certainly turning heads, and the thing about hockey that's different is even if you're like, as long as Michigan State's viewed as a place where the kids can develop, though, he'll be there. You know what I mean? Like, you can be property of a team and still play for your college team. So it's a good question.
Detroit 19 next. Can we just enjoy the Lions' ascension? It's the NFL. Dallas lost to Arizona, Philly to the Jets. KC has lost 3 of 4. We're conditioned to think the other shoe is going to drop, but reality is our window isn't open yet, and Goff, when protected, is surgical. Anything past winning the division and playoff win is gravy.
There's some truth to this, that everybody struggles, and the Lions have been struggling for a while, though.
But it's the trade deadline and not going after some. I mean, I get it, but as a Lions fan, guess what you get as a Lions fan? You can react however you'd like. If you think the sky's falling, fucking A, the sky's falling. If you're behind the team and you think they're gonna win the Super Bowl, fucking A. Right? I mean, I just don't. It's just a weird position to be in when you play terribly, and it's like you try to have a level head about things, but sometimes when you see a defense that can't tackle or something like that, it's just I'm accepting the fact that we're going to make the playoffs and whatever happens. I'm with them on that.
Yeah. No, and I think part of it too is that the Goff thing is you're just not sure if you have your quarterback yet. You're not sure, there's
I mean, he is surgical when everything goes right. Right? I mean, how many times are you going to get that in the NFL, though?
Most of us are.
Yeah. Next one from Detroit 19. How is Connor Stallion sitting in the stands with an iPhone worse than either of the following 2 things? Number 1, Saban hiring a coach from a future opponent that literally sat in team meetings. And 2, coaches passing notes to one another with already decoded information.
Because one is against the rules. And there are you're right, in terms of what gives somebody more of an advantage, that's an absolutely fair question. But if we agree to rules in life and you have to follow them, they broke rules that they knew existed, or Connor Stallions knew existed, and probably other staffers on that. That's the thing. You have to be willing to follow rules. It's the Jim Harbaugh burger situation. Like, if you're unwilling to follow the rules that everybody else is playing by, Jim Harbaugh can go hire an Alabama assistant, former Alabama assistant. He can have some friends on other staffs. I don't think a lot of people like him, but he could do that. And share information. That happens all the time. Tom Izzo was just talking to Matt Painter yesterday because Matt Painter's about to play Arizona, and those two are friends, and they're sharing their experiences and things that happens. Now, the decoded stuff's a step further, but one is against the rules and one is not, and sometimes it's just that simple. Them's the rules, and you got to follow them.
Feeswig, the volleyball dad, gambling related. Northwestern is ass. Is their loss to Chicago State worse than MSU's loss to Texas Southern or Michigan's loss to New Jersey Tech? Should Chicago State even be Division I? They may legit be the worst poverty program in college.
Yeah, somebody lost some money here.
It was like a 23-point spread, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and I've seen Chicago State. I covered Chicago State back in the day for the Chicago Defender.
When they were good?
They were competitive when I covered them. They had this 7-footer named Daryl Johns who could not pass. But if you just played him one-on-one, he was pretty good. And
so like Sissoko?
No, he had more skill than Sissoko, but he wasn't as athletic. But they were playing DePaul and Pat Kennedy in Allstate Arena one year, and I was covering the game. And he had 24 points and 12 rebounds because Pat Kennedy did not scout Chicago State. DePaul almost lost to Chicago State with like Quentin Richardson and all those guys because they did not, like, all you had to do was double team this kid and he would turn it over. And they did not know either who he was or take the time to do it. But Chicago State's got a couple good players now. They have a couple highly recruited freshmen. They got they've got like 3 of the better players they've ever had. And so I'm happy for them. And as somebody who's covered games in the Jacoby Dickens Center The old building in the south side of Chicago. I have respect for Chicago State. I always root for them, and it's always dangerous when Chicago State gets up to play Northwestern. Northwestern probably didn't get up to play Chicago State.
Jojo, what's the worst gift you've ever given based on your perception and or the recipient's reaction?
Worst gift you've given?
I gotta say, no one's really shown me that my gifts have been asked, because if I don't know them, I'll go gift card. So, I mean, my dad's was always the same. Like, I could hand him $1 million in the same reaction. So
Which
that
was,
kind of
what,
sucked.
What was the reaction?
No reaction. Like, oh, yeah. And he puts it to the side.
Like, so what do you give him?
Well, the last time I saw him for Christmas, my sister and I got him like a Sammy Hagar. He loves Sammy Hagar, so we got him a framed thing with a autographed ticket from a show that he went to, I think, or something like that. And we thought, okay, this is going to crack because, throughout the years, he's never reacted to anything. Same reaction.
I got my wife a vacuum and a mattress topper when I was going to propose and give her an engagement ring in 2015.
But you guys were living together.
No, well, sort of, yeah. She was living in Chicago. We had the 2 apartments going. She was working for the Tribune.
So she could actually use it.
She didn't hate it.
Bad gift.
I mean, she since has told me, like, she doesn't really ever need a vacuum again as an actual gift.
Dude, I love a good vacuum.
Well, she needed the vacuum pack. So I panicked. So what happened was the plan was to propose to my wife on Christmas night.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to Chicago. I bought this little fake tree she had in her apartment for. It was this whole setting. I created this Christmas vibe. It was going to be great. I was only seeing her once every couple of weeks because we were living in opposite cities. Or I would go there once every couple of weeks. She would come home. And Michigan State was playing Alabama in the playoff right after that. So I was driving to Chicago, spending Christmas night with her, then getting on a plane in Chicago to go down to Dallas to cover Michigan State playing Alabama. So I had one night in Chicago. And I had the ring, had it for a couple weeks, was excited about it. This is going to happen. I'm going to propose. I mean, what better Christmas gives? You propose on Christmas night, romantic. It takes care of the gift part of it too, and her uncle, God bless that fucker. I like him. I just had a meal with him the other night, but he thought she was going to be alone on Christmas. It was like her first Christmas living there, maybe second. Anyway, so being concerned about that, being the loving uncle he emailed and said they're going to bring the whole family to her. So he brought, her cousins, his wife. We're taking you out for Christmas dinner, and it was, the old, I don't know, for lack of a better term, cock block sort of thing. Like it was like, I couldn't propose
you got
now.
Cock blocked by your uncle?
That's the wrong term. We'll fix that in post. That's awful. Jeez, I didn't mean it like that. But it took away my ability to propose on Christmas night because now I had all these people around. The whole night was changed. It wasn't the romantic evening I was planning to set up. I couldn't say anything because the whole thing was supposed to be a surprise, so I couldn't say. And I probably, in hindsight, should have. If I knew her uncle better, like I know him now, I would have called him and said, "Hey, here's my plan.
Stop cock blocking me, bro.
If you could back out of this, it would be great." So then I don't propose that night. I go on to the game. January's busy as heck. We haven't seen each other that much. She finally comes home, and this is the last time she's going to be home before the 30 days are up where I can actually return the ring. So I'm panicked. Now I got no idea. And so we watched the movie The Paper with Michael Keaton. Great movie, by the way. Marissa Tomei. And I went to get the ring. I was going to come out propose. I go to get the ring. I come out. She's fighting with UPS on the phone. I don't know what's going on. I start pacing. I'm sweating. She still talks about the heat that was coming off of me as I proposed. And I just went in there and I just asked her to marry me. She said, yes, we had a great evening. It was wonderful. It worked out, but it was not the plan. And that was all. So when all of a sudden at the last second I was going to be unable to propose on Christmas night, I just went out and bought like a mattress topper for her place, which was actually a nice gift, and a vacuum. And it was probably the worst gift I've ever given.
How many kind of bachelor dudes, though, get it like a topper? Like, I wouldn't even know what to look for.
Oh, a top for a good mattress topper?
No,
yeah.
I'm not saying it's bad, but at your age, I just would have never have thought a topper thing.
We had a really good one on our bed at the time and here, so I knew what to get.
When your uncle wasn't cock blocking.
I totally didn't mean to say it like that. That's the worst. And the worst part is I told them about this podcast. Is there like an 8% chance they'll listen or something else? I didn't mean it like
There's no way I'm going to cut that up. So.
No, thank you for sure.
Soundboard Sunday.
Thank you for sure. That is a story we're telling, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue in downtown Lansing. A fantastic place for a date night, to propose maybe, or to take somebody out during the Christmas holidays if they're home visiting you. Show them a little bit of Lansing, and you know how much I love Lansing. Midtown Brewing Company is one of the gems we have in Lansing. The beer selection, the menu, the vibe. Again, in downtown Lansing, wonderful place to go. You can go to midtownbrewing.net to check out their menu.
Mojo Jojo, what would it take for Brad to trade for Crosby? Raiders are going nowhere fast. Crosby fits the ethos of Detroit and grew up a fan. And we badly need a premium edge rusher for our Super Bowl window. It's not happening.
Yeah.
We don't have enough number one picks, I don't think.
And the other
Mark Davis is not trading Max Crosby.
And so much of football is about having cheap talent. And
well, you have to find guys like Max Crosby, and they organically work in your system, right?
Yes. Paying for expensive people when you only get like 3 or 4 of those guys on a roster is really dangerous. I mean,
but I wonder if Brad Holmes actually called to find out what Max Crosby would cost. Did they just hang up on him, or?
That's a fair question. Eastern Michigan guy,
Yeah,
bring him home.
He's a beast. Jarrett next. Would you take MSU missing the tourney this year to get to the Final Four next year, like Coach K?
Oh, I guess he did do that. He missed the tourney one year or something.
Yeah, but Coach K, the ending, losing to North Carolina the way he did, I don't want that ending for Izzo.
I love your Coach K voice, too. If you can do that.
No! No!
Oh, my God, it's so good. It's so good. How
do you have an AP vote? It's not funny.
Yeah, I don't. Would I think most fans would take missing the tourney to be in the Final Four next year? I do think they would. At this point, yes, they would with this team, because they don't think this team. And I also don't think. But I think there is a mix there. There are some people that do value that streak. But if it meant you were assured in the Final Four versus taking a chance, yes, I do think people would do that.
Jarrett, why did Izzo get several 6'11" guys in the first 15 years of coaching and now hasn't gotten one in a long time?
Well, I mean, he has 2 of them on the roster right now. I mean, I do maybe they're not listed at 6'11", but Carson Cooper is 6'11". I believe Xavier Booker is 6'11", or he's close to it. Yeah, so I mean, he's got 2 on the roster right now. Would be my answer to the question. And Jaren Jackson Jr. was close to it. He's had some guys. Now, they have been weak at the center spot, and Mady Sissoko is an undersized big. He's like legitimately like 6'8", and that's part of his issue. But he does have some big guys now.
Travis Maynard next. Graham, would you trade 2 more years of Jaden Akins to add junior Aaron Henry for the rest of this season? Jason, you strike me as someone who has regretted making a trade in the past. I once traded a bike for rollerblades. My dad was pissed. I missed that bike. It was dope.
What's the trade you regret?
Yeah, my dad would be real pissed if I made that trade too.
Yeah.
It was back when Shaq was a rookie, right?
Oh God, I got a Shaq one too.
And the upper deck would put out a Shaq card, but you had to get a redemption, right? So you had to get the redemption and then send it in. So I had done all of that, and I had sent it in. And back then, obviously, you thought, you were going to be a millionaire with one card back then. So Rich Paczynski, my dad was a single guy. We lived in a duplex, and my dad on Friday would come home because he's a bachelor, and he would leave us $25. He'd tell me to invite some friends over. We'd get Hungry Howie's. Well, of course, no internet back then. So we had to do some at night. And at night, we would go out and throw stuff at cars. I understand. Terrible. But back when you're a kid, you think it's fun. You think it's great. So Rich Paczynski, who went to Waverly Middle School with us, he was from New Jersey. And if you've ever met someone from New Jersey, they kind of have that attitude, and it's kind of weird when you're like 12 years old with that attitude. But anyway, Rich would do anything. He was cold-blooded. I watched him get into a fight with a dude after school. Like, he was a skinny dude with an attitude, and it was one of the craziest fights I've ever seen in person. Anyway. What's the story I'm trying to tell? I forgot.
Rich
Paczynski. So anyway, so we're like, okay. I told him, because I figured he would. I figured I had something that he wouldn't do. I had the pizza sauce from the Hungry Howie's, and I said, Rich, when it gets dark, if you go out in the middle of the street and rifle it at a car, I will give you my Shaq rookie card. He goes, okay. I'm like, shit, man. Like, he didn't even, like, think about it whatsoever. So anyway, so we go out there. I'm hiding in a bush with Rob Peasley. He's next to me, sucking his thumb at like 12 years old. Still weird. But anyway, so Rich goes up. There was like a Ford Escort coming this way, and it had something on the top. It was like a pizza delivery guy. And sure as shit, Rich goes out in the middle of the road, and the car stops, and he rifles it right at the fucking the windshield. And we're like, holy shit. So anyway, so Rich starts running. All of a sudden, the guy opens the door and starts running after. All you hear is just a bunch of fucking change in his pocket. He's like, oh, get back here. So we're like, oh, my God, Rich is going to die. So we go around the corner, and we're watching, and the guy's running after him. And Rich stops because he has, like, asthma or something. So he's sitting there panting. Like, dude, the pizza guy punches Rich in the fucking stomach. We're like, oh, my God. And then the guy starts running back to his car. So we scatter and hide in a bush or whatever. And so we run after Rich, you know, after the guy. I just remember him yelling, this fucking car is my life. And I was like, holy. So long story short, Rich was okay. We found him, and we decided never to do some shit like that again.
But you lost your Shaq rookie card.
I did lose my Shaq. Well, come on, dude. I have to. First of all, he would have kicked my ass, probably. And secondly, you have to give it to a dude for taking a punch from a pizza guy. But I've told that story before. But anyway.
It's a fantastic story presented by Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing.
I love my brain hiccups though. Frozen.
It's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite stories. The many you tell. Santa Rube might have to be one we the last show next week.
All right.
Before Christmas, we may have to bring back Santa Rube. Right. But I stopped trading cards because of a bad trade. Like I traded a Shaquille O'Neal rookie for 16 Dikembe Mutombo rookies,
which, by the way, wasn't a terrible trade back. You know,
at the time
day.
It was.
I loved Dikembe.
Even. Yeah, at the time it was.
But Shaq was crazy. That was crazy.
Yeah, not a great move. So this is probably 90. So their rookie years are like 92-ish and around there. So this is probably
91, 92.
Yeah. So this is like 94 when I do this trade, and it was like the end of it. Like I lost interest. I lost the trade so badly pretty quick that I just lost. I can't.
It can suck your soul. And then when you found out that they printed millions and millions of those things, it probably made it okay.
Absolute worst.
All right, Travis.
Oh wait, did I forget the first part of the story? 2 years Jay Nagins for junior Aaron Henry. The answer to that question would be, Aaron Henry's the type of player they need in certain ways right now. Things that happened with him late in the season in terms of leadership and everything weren't great. There were some things that weren't great there. And so, no, I would take 2 years of Jay Nagins, in part for this reason. Because I really think if you get Jay Nagins on next year's team, given some promising young pieces, like you're going to need a veteran who I think is, going to be motivated, driven, more of a – I just think having Jay Nagins with next year's team could help them. And I don't know that Aaron Henry pushes this year's team over the top. If you're talking about trying to find a team that's going to get you somewhere, I would not make that trade.
Travis Maynard. All 5 MSU losses are currently quad 1. Yes, at the time of this tweet, even James Madison at home. Seems like none will end up worse than a quad 2. What are the chances we are just hitting our typical late midseason skid early, and this stretch of quad 1 losses doesn't look so bad come March?
So I want to give Travis Maynard some props here, by the way. I saw this tweet yesterday, went and looked this up, and then and it was writing it and the tip-off for the Michigan State Baylor game and included this information there. So I don't know that I would have noticed that if it wasn't for Travis. So props to him.
Moving on up.
The bad losses. Yeah, they have no bad losses. At some point, though, you got to have wins. But it's true to that. I mean, they have played a schedule that is going to be – those losses are going to age well. It's a really respectable schedule. They don't have a bad loss that's going to hurt them. You have to get wins, too, but that's the best thing MSU has going for it. It is not a 4-5 schedule like you would think of a 4-5 schedule. It's not 4-5 like Michigan State was 4-5 in 1996. It's not that 4-5. So this is they've got to start to win, but the odds that they're just hitting their midseason skid early, there's some issues with this team that are deeper. But yeah, I mean, it's early enough. Like I thought about writing the whole tournament column this week, NCAA tournament. I just couldn't bring myself to take that seriously yet. think there's too much there, and their losses have been too good.
Professor next. Would MSU hoops win more games if coaches went back to wearing suits?
I mean, it was a slicker look, but I don't think it would matter a ton. There are some people who think MSU's that they correlate when MSU fell off a little bit when Izzo stopped wearing suits. But yeah,
that's possible. Professor, favorite SNL sketch of all time?
Do you have one?
Yes. Do you remember Dana Carvey in the 90s played a character called Lyle the Effeminate Heterosexual, where he was a heterosexual man with a married family and watched football and all that stuff, but he talked effeminate. Couldn't happen today, but man, if you look it up on YouTube, it's hilarious.
It's good? Okay.
Yeah.
Mine would be the Casablanca with Kate McKinnon Saturday night skit where it's like, you know how they do those, they're almost like, it's like done in black and white. It's like the final scene of Casablanca where she gets on the plane, and they do a funny remake of it. And if you ever get it
out of every SNL sketch, that is your favorite.
Well, it's the one. I mean, my wife and I constantly quote it all the time when she goes, "No, Richard, no!" Like the way she does it, it's so good. And so, like, it's the one that there are lots of great ones, and I would say it's the most memorable to me.
I need to look this up now.
Casablanca, and there's some it's really funny because he.
Do you guys do it in public and then look at each other because you are the only two that know?
Yeah, it's worth. If you haven't seen it before, Casablanca Saturday Night Live skit. It's worth your time. Yeah, it's very good.
Or Lyle, the effeminate heterosexual. Kenshu, when and where is the Couch in the Rube Christmas get together?
Hate to be Scrooge here. I don't think it's going to happen this year.
Graham's house, right after Hallmark movie trivia night or whatever the fuck.
We will do a gathering, hopefully, again at some point, because we've had a really good time, and that would be fun to do. But I don't think we're going to have a Christmas get-together.
Swing on by the studio. Chris Eastlick, next. Should we allow Graham to talk about the Pistons' injuries? After all, I bet he talked to every NBA beat writer. They could say this happens everywhere.
Not like this. When you got like 7 guys out, I mean, and these guys are like legitimate injuries. It wasn't like rest guys.
Frank?
This was weird this year. Yeah. Not a lot of Liz, but just a lot of other stuff.
Next one from Chris. Does it seem like Jonathan Smith is the best of both worlds between the development and identification of talent from D'Antonio while keeping and embracing some of the modern things Tucker tried to do?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. We just don't know yet. I don't have a feel for him entirely. I haven't talked to Jonathan Smith myself yet, so I don't know. I mean, I wasn't at the presser when he was introduced because I was sick at that point and thought I might have COVID. But even then, the people were there. Just didn't get anything. You didn't get a great sense of him. So I don't know. I think there's a potential for that. Yes, I think he seems like what D'Antonio might have been had D'Antonio been an offensive coach and 25 years younger. And if that's the case, then there's some good things there.
Chris Eastlick, what is Darian Harris's role now that he's working with NIL? Can he help fix some of this mess we hear rumblings about, or are things close to getting better?
Yeah, I mean, he basically is in charge of the NIL program over there, but he doesn't control the collectives. I do think it would be, if he were able to, it would help. I mean, I think Darian Harris is a very sharp person who has a good feel for things, and there are 2 things he doesn't have control over. He doesn't have control over the direction the athletic, like Alan Haller still has a lot of control over, or has all the control over the direction the athletic department wants to go with collectives and with certain initiatives, and how they, if something's the official collective, how they get that out to the public and how much they want to emphasize things. But Darian has a significant role and an important role, and I think the more just my conversations with him, he has a really good pulse of things and a really good understanding of things, and the more he has influence on the outside collectives and internally, I think is probably a good thing in terms of that component of the operation.
Graham Carpenter next. Who would you compare Aidan Chiles to?
Well, in my column, as Jason pointed out, I said he's sort of Drew Stanton meets Mill the Thrill Coleman. I was just trying to put it in Michigan State terms. I've heard the Jaden Daniels comparison. I don't know that that's yeah,
but that gets people more excited.
No
offense to Stanton or Coleman. I'm just saying.
Right. But I mean, Stanton was a really at his best. He had a bad senior year. His junior year was a really good quarterback and an athletic guy, a little bit of a drunken sailor run to him. But and Coleman didn't have quite the arm. It wasn't quite as big, but was.
But I like that it
else.
wasn't Mill Coleman. It was Mill the Thrill.
Yeah, because that's how
Coleman.
people. Yeah, no, it's one of the great nicknames too. Like Mill the Thrill Coleman. Like I would
Like
love
Greg the Leg.
There you go. I would
Zerline in the NFL.
I would love to be known as Mill the Thrill Coleman or Greg the Leg.
We'll start calling you that.
Mill the Thrill Coleman.
Yeah. Graham Carpenter, what's your favorite casino you guys have gone to anywhere and why?
Well, it's Firekeepers.
Anyone I win money from.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
but Firekeepers is the best in Michigan for sure.
It's fantastic, and it is a cool vibe. And we've done a live show there. I've been there multiple times. I love the. I used to, when I lived in Kalamazoo, by the way, we used to take Ubers late at night. Like, this is how you know the night went off the rails. Bar closes at 2. Somebody brings up the idea of Firekeepers. And if you got in that Uber, you were getting home at 6. And the next day was in trouble. And sometimes, Graham, tomorrow's got a big day. You can't, but when you're like 29, 30, you're like, screw it, let's do it. But had some great times there. I've always thought it's a fantastic place, and that's one of the reasons they're a sponsor. They're not just a sponsor because, hey, let's see if we can get a casino. Like Firekeepers was the one that fit us because of the respect we have for them and what they are in Michigan.
But like the Bellagio is probably
outside of
one
Michigan?
of the nicest ones that
Yeah, and if you
want to pick one of those, but I never really gamble there.
If you're in Vegas, like the Caesar Sportsbook is worth seeing because it's such a epic. If you're going to do that on an NFL Sunday, although it's really packed certain days.
The Aria, that's a nice one too.
And going downtown on like Fremont's kind of fun. The
Circa.
The other one I always liked is this is going back 20 years, so I don't even. But Bally's and Paris when they're. The way they're combined, I don't know. I always like the ability to walk between the two, and if you lose money one place and you need to change your vibe.
Next one from Graham Carpenter, Fox Sports Radio or ESPN.
I don't really listen to either anymore, so I couldn't. I mean, I don't spend any time on either. I listen to a lot of podcasts when I have time, and
it's ESPN. I mean, if there's a game on or something like that, I just have no need for Fox Sports Radio, I guess.
Yeah, other than games, yeah.
Tyrone Plum next. What will be Chiles' first victory at MSU?
What is their first game? Hold on.
Feliz Navidad.
Free Ubers.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Prospero año y felicidad.
Okay, so they opened with Florida Atlantic. Sometimes a decent program. Not sure where they're at right now. So I would say Florida Atlantic, August 31st at Spartan Stadium is his first win.
Sweet. Yeah. Tyrone, how many years, if ever, will it take Jonathan Smith to land a 5-star at MSU since Relentless never did?
It's just no way to know that. And part of it will depend on, is there a 5-star in Michigan that, sometimes you get kids because they're in your recruiting wheelhouse. So I do think that's something you have to have from time to time. D'Antonio had them from time to time. It makes a difference. Those guys are important. But I'll say his third recruiting class it happens.
Last one from Tyrone Plum. Waffle House, Bob Evans, Denny's, or IHOP?
Where are you at on this?
I've only eaten at Waffle House once, and it was really good. But we used to go to Denny's all the time after the bar back in the day.
Yeah, I've had a good experience at all these places. IHOP was my...
They all serve pancakes.
Yeah, no, I would say IHOP. I've had some late-night experiences at IHOP where I once ordered 2 entrees. I was like, I'll have the egg burger with this. And she's like, that's not the waitress said, it's not the side. I said, I know. Just bring them both, please. Thank you.
I'll take that to go. Couch on Fire, we have our coach and QB. What are the other keys for the MSU football team to be ready for 2024?
Well, yeah, it's playmakers around them. And it really starts up front with the offensive line to me. And it's seeing who comes back. And some guys have come out of the portal. But it's getting a serviceable offensive line and then some playmakers at the receiver, pass-catching positions that give Aidan Chiles a chance. And I think defensively they could be okay based on the guys it looks like are coming back, and I think that's gone okay so far.
Couch on Fire, just for fun, if Izzo retired after this year, who would be your top 3 replacement candidates?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Nate Oates the other day. The Nate Oates thing, this year, it just would be too early to do. The guy I would look at that I think's had a resurgence that is a better fit would be Shaka Smart, like at Marquette. And I just think that that's a guy who was amazing at VCU. At Texas, some things didn't work there. He tried to change who he was. Not a basketball school. Back up in this area, I would say Shaka Smart would be one. Beyond that, it's a good question where I would go with number 2 if there's a mid-major guy I like, or if it's you're gonna go after a high major. That's a good question. I haven't thought it through that well. Apologies, but Shaka Smart would be probably one if it were this year.
Couch on Fire. Tigers need to sign at least 2 respectable free agent bats to that lineup. Odds? I don't know. I really don't.
I don't think they're going to, do you?
I don't know.
Yeah.
All of these deals they've signed are like 1-2-year deals with pitchers, and
the last one wasn't that inspiring either.
Flaherty? Jack Flaherty? He's good. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good deal.
All right. Well, and it's a 1-year deal too. I don't mind these 1-year deals where it's like I like that they know they're not trying to block the development of guys. They're still trying to figure out who they are. And I'm okay with that. And I'm okay going into the year without a huge – I'd love to add at least one more bat. But I'm actually kind of – I don't want to say excited, but I'm looking forward to this Tiger season. I actually am.
I think it makes it sound like they're going to build from within, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to go – I agree. Neurotic Pants. Would Madi Sissoko do well in the MAC? I'm not sure he'd do any better.
He would fare better because there are fewer guys who are bigger than him. Like, he would be a big guy in the MAC. Now, they have some 6'10 guys, but there are fewer athletic 6'11 guys. Like, the guys who are athletic are built like him. And so, yes, he would be – in the MAC, he wouldn't be a great scorer, but he would be a 7.5 point, I think, 10 rebound guy in the MAC. He'd be a good starting center.
Neurotic. Graham, does Lansing actually have really good Mexican food? Ella's Taco is delicious comfort food, perhaps fresh out of the microwave. And Italian food? We all know that Lansing's most famous Italian joint, which I won't name, has sucked for decades.
All right, Mr. Neurotic Pants. Yes, well, Ella's Taco is delicious. It's not just it's not fresh out of the microwave. It's fantastic. And by the way, there are 2 LS's. You know, there's the real LS where I grew up on the north side or the west side of Lansing too. Different owners, although I like the people on the East Land. I shut the hell up here real quick, but yeah, El Oasis is unbelievable. The Mexi treats on the south side, fantastic.
You didn't say name all of them.
I'm just
which
saying,
one do you like?
There's lots of good Mexican food. I'm just saying, and Pablo's is amazing in Old Town. Lots of good Mexican food. Lansing is an underrated food place. I think there's lots of good food here. I really do. And that includes Midtown Brewing Company. That includes Front 43 and Cask and Company, 2 local places, as well as Groovy Donuts, which having the best donut place in the state in Lansing is like one of the great gems that there is. And again, groovydonuts.com. You want to place your Christmas orders, just swing on by if you want to enjoy the Premier League and football on Saturday with a box of Groovy Donuts. Go to either location, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday through Sunday on East Lansing and Lake Lansing Road and in Williamston.
David, up next. What do MSU basketball assistants actually do in-game? They don't let Izzo know he has timeouts to use if he wants to get subs in and stop runs, and are often minutes late to fixing underperforming lineups in-game.
They all have their roles. Somebody's got the substitutions. I'm not actually sure who that is right now. But they all have different roles. They all work hard. They're not just sitting there like, oh, no, want some donuts? That's not how. They all have different roles in terms of what they chart, what they're looking at, the guys they coach, and how much they interact. They all have very distinct roles. But it's a fair question. That would be a good story actually on what each assistant does during a game. That would be good to do.
John Rambo next. Do you see similar issues with this MSU team as the 2011 squad that went 19-15 and got bounced first round by UCLA? Could this team have to go a step further and win the whole Big Ten tourney to hear their name called on Selection Sunday?
I'm not there yet because I think the schedule is tough, but also good. Like, you beat Baylor. I mean, Indiana State's going to be a good win. They're probably going to win the Missouri Valley. That's going to be a quad one win as well if you get it. But I don't see similar issues. I wasn't around that 2010-11 team. I should say that because I hear there was a lot of dysfunction. That was the year before I started covering Michigan State. And so, I mean, are there elements of a team where a lot of guys came back? But that team had been to 2 Final Fours and 2 championship games, and I think they just got a little sick of each other. A little different scenario, I think. I think this team will be fine in terms of getting in the tournament. The question for me still is, what can they turn themselves into that makes them not just some team that's expected to lose to a high seed in the second round?
Jay Riemenschneider next. The day Tyson Walker signed with MSU, would you have thought at this point he would be without a doubt their absolutely best player? Hell, would you have even thought he would still be here?
I thought there was a chance. I've always liked small guards, and I've always thought they'd get overlooked. Like, my favorite player of all time in college basketball players, David Bailey at Loyola Chicago, late 90s, early 2000s. He put up 25 on Charlie Bell when Michigan State played at Loyola. I mean, just unbelievable. Like Barry Sanders on a basketball court, like 5'8", could do a lot of stuff. Didn't have great Loyola teams around him. Larry Farmer was his coach. Let's keep throwing info out there. Anyway, love small guards. They get overlooked. And there's, Tyler Ulis is a great example. I mean, Izzo is paid dearly for not recruiting Tyler Ulis, small guard, right? That happens. And so his size didn't concern me. I thought there was a chance he could wind up being MSU's best player. I didn't, the extra year thing I knew would be out there. So I could see all of what's unfold. I saw him being the point guard though. Being the off the ball guy has been interesting to see.
Ezra K. next. Is Jordan Hall staying simply huge for the Spartans' defense? Is there a better, more mature young man at linebacker at any school?
Yeah, I mean, they need him to stick around and not just, the other thing is all these guys saying they're staying right now could leave after the spring. And a guy like Hall, I don't know if he's committed for next year. I think one of the things but I think that's smart to do for a lot of these guys. Like, you can look at, if you think, I like it at Michigan State, I like my teammates, there's no reason not to give this staff a chance. You might as well do the winter, unless you really are sure you want to leave. You do the spring, see where things are, and if it's a good fit, you stick around. And Hall will be a player wherever he goes. But yes, he is a guy that I think is an impact player, both on the field. I think he's a good leader, a good presence. Jordan Hall staying is one of those young defenders that, and maybe tops among them, that makes a big difference.
Next one from Ezra. Wouldn't it be insane to bet against Nick Saban in a playoff game?
It's not ideal. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing it. I don't know.
I don't think it's insane, but yeah.
I mean, you don't feel great going into a game if your money is against Nick Saban.
Unless they play Georgia.
Even then, we just saw what happened.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. This show's on for 3 hours. Ezra, Bilo Elo next. We have seen recruit flips from Oregon State starting to happen. Do you think we will see any Minnesota flipping from defensive recruits or current players?
Probably. And you're already seeing a little of that with guys decommitting. And so, yes, I do think you will see that because obviously their defensive coordinator is gone elsewhere, and that's the guy they were playing for.
DMB next. Can the LSJ request a FOIA on Weiss? How is it even remotely possible? The details of a criminal investigation from a year ago remain unknown. Isn't your boss some FOIA expert, Couch? The tattoo bet coming up.
Matt Macarini's not my boss, but he is my colleague. Yes, he's a fantastic
Matt Macarini.
I like donuts and Matt Macarini.
Matt Macarini.
Yeah. But anybody can file a FOIA request. It's not a media thing. You can file a FOIA request for what they have on
DMB,
Weiss.
get on it.
Yeah. So
it's the holdup.
If we get to the off season, it hasn't been done. I've got a lot going, and Matt does too in his own world. But I will. I'm at the work world, not like he's got some, he's not domestic situations and stuff going on. But but I will maybe if it hasn't happened by like April or May, that I'll see if I can get Matt on this.
Bo McJunkins, does Michigan teach a class in keeping things as quiet as possible? Izzo looks at a player wrong, and it's on first take the next day. Yet Juwan is in another altercation, and it's crickets from Ward Manuel. Is this incident number 46 under his watch?
Yeah, Ward is good at just, Ward does not come out. I mean, Ward is good at preserving his own job to this point, and I'm a little amazed he still has it with some of the things that have gone on, but somebody there likes him.
Bo, how hard is it to get this NIL shit figured out at MSU? Want it tied to Spartan Fun points? Here's the solution. 1 point for every $1. Arby's and McDonald's can figure this shit out. Why can't we?
There's no question that that's the way it's got to go if you really want the fans to be, not the big donors, to drive this. And people want Spartan Fun points. And I'll be curious to see if they do it. There seems to be some resistance to this point on it. There are some, when people start giving to the NIL collective instead of the Spartan Fund, there is a cost to that. You lose out other projects and other things. There's not an unlimited amount of money. I like it because I like the troughs at Spartan Stadium, and I don't want any renovations. I don't want the troughs being taken out of the bathrooms there. So I don't need Spartan. I don't want any money put in the Spartan Stadium because I want troughs. But other people, if you want upgrades, there's a reason that I think they're a little hesitant on that as well.
Dark Mantonio, Graham, would you be willing to say right now that by the time they are all done playing college ball, Sam Leavitt will be a better college QB than Kyle McCord and Aidan Chiles?
Yes.
Deal. Next one from Dark. On a pod a few weeks ago.
Wait. Well, hold on. You're
grown there. Dude, we're at like 2.5 hours.
I apologize. Yeah, I thought this was going to be a little short. No, I would say better than Kyle McCord. I don't know about Aidan Chiles because I haven't seen enough of Aidan Chiles.
On a pod a few weeks ago, you said Ryan Day would have plenty of victories over Michigan while at Ohio State. What is plenty, and are you willing to make a tattoo bet?
No tattoo bet, and I don't know if he'll stick around or whatnot. But if Ryan Day coaches another 5 years, in that he'll win probably 3 of those games. They always have more talent. Jim Harbaugh's probably not going to be there. He'll get it figured out, but he's had some missed opportunities, and what's happened here will affect his reputation there.
Gerald B17 next. Michigan still being favored over Bama, even though all the money is on Bama. Plus, Bama's recent history tells me Vegas thinks Michigan is going to win, and it might not be close. If Michigan wins, should we hope for Washington or Texas?
Which is the team you like more, Washington or Texas?
Washington.
Yeah, me too.
Because of Penix.
Yep.
I trust Penix more, I guess. I don't know about their D. Gerald B17. I know it's a couch bit to speak in absolutes, but he does understand Florida State being left out of the playoff, says the QB position is the most important position. Not that Travis is the most important player. We'd have the same conversation with any of the 4 if they lost their QB.
No, I understand that they're not the same team, but I also understand the committee judged them about their third-string quarterback when he wasn't going to play in that game. I also understand that the system is screwed up and not enough people on the committee should have admitted that. They should have just said that. The people who came up with this were dumb. And if they started there, dumb, morons, shouldn't be in this business, shouldn't be in college athletics. The idea of a 4-team playoff was with 5 major leagues and other schools is so ridiculous that if you were for it at any point, you should never work in college athletics again. If we started there, I would have taken any result for the playoff, and they didn't start there. I understand that they're not the same team. They're less likely to win it, but you can win something with a dominant defense and a backup QB, and we don't know. The committee doesn't know, and we don't know what would have actually happened.
Sports Guy 1919 in Izzo's Why Don't You Ask Something rant, which one was directed towards Graham?
I can't even remember if I was.
Why don't you write something? Why don't you write something, huh? Why don't you write something?
I think he was just pointing around.
Yeah, I don't know. Was I there? I think I was there. Like I've seen the video so many times, I remember being there, but I also think I wasn't there. I don't even remember at this point.
All right, Sports Guy 1919. How drunk should I get Saturday? MSU at 2, NFL all day, and Lions at 8. Let's go.
I mean, you want to be awake for the Lions at 8. That would be my only thing. You got to pace yourself.
That was always our biggest mistakes.
Yeah.
Don't do any shots before the Lions game.
Don't. Yeah, and if you
drink beer or something,
and if you can find an hour nap in there with an alarm, maybe at 6:30, you put yourself down for an hour. That's ideal. Come back a little fresh.
Yep.
That's the way to go.
Hans Jurgen, do you prefer a glazed donut twist or a traditional glazed donut? Can you pod one day a week just on donuts?
I probably could, but it'd be in this voice, and nobody would really want that.
Oh my God, whole hour of that.
Yeah. Do I prefer a glazed donut? Traditional glazed donut is probably my preference.
He likes them all.
Yeah, I'm not really.
Hans, if we are within 20 points of Michigan next year in football, should we consider the season a success?
The season, if they're within, no. No, you want win. You want a season where you want to be back in the postseason. You want a bowl game. You want to be competitive. That game will obviously be at Michigan.
Hey, we only lost by 19. You know, things are on the up and up.
Yeah, you want to be competitive right away.
Jerk guy, what's the best Christmas cookie?
Had a lot, but a really good gingerbread cookie is with the right icing and M&Ms.
A donut cookie podcast.
Oh.
Upper Deck Jerk guy, if we all asked Santa for the MSU basketball team to play well, would that work?
It's worth doing. I mean, especially if you only ask Santa and you don't ask for anything else, I feel like Santa shouldn't let people down.
Jerk guy, what is your over-under on wins in Jonathan Smith's first year?
I think there's an opportunity. I do think they'll set it at like 4.5, and I think this is one of those years where it'll be to take the over on Michigan State, and I would say 6 would be the number. We still have to see who comes back, what sort of line they have, all that sort of stuff. But it's not an easy schedule, and there's a real tough stretch in there. But I think it might be a year where betting the over, and that might be fun for people. If you got the over, Michigan State's making you money by being a middle-of-the-pack team, that can make the year even better. We appreciate all of you. We appreciate Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Download the app today. Bet the games we're betting. Thank you, of course, to Front 43 and Cask & Company. Great place to post up on your Saturday. Or if you're looking for a Saturday night date night where the Lions game will also be on, and it's a date night spot, good spot. Midtown's good for that, too. We appreciate Groovy Donuts. Make Groovy Donuts part of your weekend. It'll make your weekend better. We'll be back Monday, I believe. Tuesday, I have to look at the schedule. Not even sure. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Catch you.